Now, say my name.
Heisenberg.
You're goddamn right.
Oh boy, here we go. This is going to be a new section. Exciting day. Chik Tok videos. You demanded it. I realized I could do a full section on this if I wanted to. I'm gonna do it. I will have Rian Stone with me today. Actually, I'm going to be picking apart one of his videos. He'll be joining us here momentarily. Hey, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? This is my final show before I head off to Miami on Thursday. Yes. I'm going to try to do some stuff from the road, too, this time. I'm going to be there a little bit longer than I have been in the past. That's enough of that. I will have Rian Stone. He's running a little bit late. He'll be in today, which is just fine because that leaves me some time to sort of give you a little bit of a build up here. People keep asking me like, "Oh, who's this girl in the thing?" Well, let me just give you a little bit of backstory right here, real quick. I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago. Maybe was it Wednesday that I did this? I have found myself doing I don't know, breakdown videos, right? I can't, like one of the most popular themes that I do on this channel and even on my pre-recorded stuff is I have guys who will say, "Hey, check this out." Like they'll send me something in an email and they'll say, "What do you think of this girl right here?" And it's always a TikTok video. Always a TikTok video. Sometimes it might be, like a quick hit YouTube thing or it's a YouTube shorts. I know, as you know, I've been doing YouTube short videos for a little bit while, they're kind of, it's still in the beta testing phase, I think right now. So, yeah, it's, I get so many of these things and I thought about it and I go, you know what? I could actually do at least a subsection. I'm just kind of experimenting with the idea of doing a quote unquote Chik Tok video. And I made this spicy little logo that's based on the TikTok logo right there. So you can see that. And so I had so many people throwing these things at me and they're like, "Oh, break down this girl, deconstruct her." And it kind of jumps at me in the same way as like, I don't want to say Kevin Samuels or Fresh and Fit because it's not like live, obviously, but it's still that breakdown. It's still detailing these things. And I think Rian Stone Rian Stone's here. He's coming up. Let me pitch it. There you go. There you are, Ryan.
Oh, I can't wait to see him.
Yeah. Oh, hang on one second. Let me change up the audio real quick. There we go. All right. See, I put the Ibanez in the background just for you for the show.
I didn't realize you were going to take that stuff to heart. I don't know. Just the '90s kid is you got to be all Gibson or like
run with it. Yeah. Let me hit these right quick. Let's see. I just finished book 2. I'm currently on book 3. The Rational Male. Thank you for amazing. Thank you. All right. You really want it? Here you go. I have no idea where that's from.
I still don't know who Don DeMarco is, so it's whatever.
It's just, it seems to be like the Manosphere like sound drop. Like if you have a show, you've got to have the Don DeMarco sound drop right now. I got that literally the week after I got back from Miami on my first trip there in January. Released the opening track. It's in the works actually, my friend Dante. If you are interested in any of my music, if you go and you look in the description, I play in a band called Trial of Ascension. We have a 4-song EP that's on Spotify right now, and we will soon have an extra 4 very soon coming up. We just finished the recording side of things and sort of building the songs. It's gone off to our good friend Scooter at Empyrean Sound Design, and it is being mixed down as I do this show, as a matter of fact. So that should be out mid June. So, and I'm going to make a big deal out of it. So you won't, trust me, you won't be in the dark. You'll get the emails and everything else that goes along with that.
So, hey, question too, before this album, when was the last album you did before this? Like, how big has the gap been?
Well, the reason why we did, gosh, I never get questions about this.
You don't have to answer if you don't want.
Well, no, it's like I spent so much time doing all this. I've been playing with these guys coming up on it. Well, in October, it'll be 2 years. So I joined the band back then. It was myself, this guy, Steve, who's the drummer, who is just like a mathematician. The guy's literally like, that's what he does for a living. He's a coder, right? I mean, his mind is like a computer. So it's like everything is he would be a very good jazz drummer. He counts like meticulously. I had to learn to play to, and to his credit, he made me do this. I had to learn to play to a metronome when I started playing with these guys. And CJ, who is like 23, he's 24 now, is just this prodigy. I mean, he's just an amazing guitar player. And I had to change up the way that I play. And so if you listen to this kind of stuff, it's not 80s metal to say the least, but I think it's pretty damn good. And we've got some really virtuoso musicians in this band, even if I'm having to keep up with them. But we put out a 4-song demo EP. I don't even call it a demo because we just call it an EP. Like, what's an EP? No, it's just 4 songs, right? And we put them up on Spotify, and we did that because we wanted to get out and play in 2020, but none of the clubs were open, and we couldn't actually go out and play anywhere. And we're still having trouble, finding a place to play right now, simply because it's just that it's reopening. We got a gig coming up in August. Actually, I haven't said anything about it, but we have a gig scheduled for August.
Your secret's safe with me. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, to be fair, you know what it kind of reminds me of, and this is my I'm not knowledgeable on metal at all, but it kind of reminds me of Joe Satriani did a metal album. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which I guess is you got them Yngwie Malmsteen looking skills going on there, so I can't complain, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have been playing guitar since I was about 14 years old. I play bass. I can play lute. I can play violin. Anything with strings, pretty much, I can probably figure it out. The reason I'm bringing that up is because there's one song, it's the title track of the next EP, is called Phoenix, and the beginning of it, I play the intro part on a bazooki or a bazooki. I hope I'm saying that right.
All right, now you're just showing off.
I have an Irish bazooki, and it's yes, I know there are Middle Eastern versions of that instrument as well. There's also Celtic versions of it too. So that's the one that I'm playing. But so I include a little bit of that. I've studied not just metal guitar. I played flamenco, Latin style stuff as well, classical for a little while.
Ooh, did you go full on with the nails and all that?
Yeah. Yeah, I can actually read music too. So, So let me throw these up here real quick. Pick up your book. School's back in session. All right. Yeah, and it's always great when I got Ryan here to sort of back me up, because we're got the big brains we're the big brains of the group, I think.
Oh, just waste an inordinate amount of time in this space and actually read the stuff we talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, anyways, let me just finish up what I was saying here is oh, Jesus Christ. No, you shouldn't. That's an easy one. There's your $2. Yeah. No, don't.
Smash, yes. Date, no.
No, yes. So I put out the call. I put out I don't say it was a poll, but I put out the call on my YouTube channel, just on a comment, and I asked guys to sort of throw some videos at me for a new section that I want to sort of include. I already put it up on my channel now. For Chik Tok videos, and because I had so many guys, once I started doing a few of these, I had guys and hitting me up in my DMs, throwing stuff at me on Twitter, throwing stuff at me on emails, and saying, "Can you break this girl down? Can you break that girl down?" I'm like, okay, fine. I'll create a whole new section here. And if you really want me to detail this stuff and you really want me to do these breakdowns, because people like that, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like a low limit version of hold her accountable.
I was going to say, it's like, free trade coffee. You still want to drink the coffee, but it's nice to know the farmers are taken care of. This is like educational red meat.
Well, yeah.
So I don't have to feel so bad about yelling at women.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because you and I have had this discussion before. It's like,
Yeah.
I am really kind of against doing like strictly red meat videos. And it's because it's so popular. It's like, what was it? Andy Worski used to, I think he was the one who coined the term YouTube blood sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to do YouTube blood sports, but
You don't want to be Roosh yelling at Brittany Venti on there while she's baking cookies.
Exactly. No, I don't want to, but I understand. I mean, I have a media / brand / marketing background, and I understand it's important to have sizzle, but you also got to have the steak. So,
Yeah.
so
Hold
I figured
your nose and.
If I'm going to do a red meat video, then it's got to be sizzle and steak instead of just sizzle, and whatever sells, right? It gets you in the door, but it's better if there is some education that goes along with it. And so that's why I decided to throw the call out there. Now, since you guys have been throwing these videos at me, let me try to clarify terms a little bit more here. Give me something I can use. A girl dancing in the street in the middle of Turkey or wherever country you're from. That's
Break that down, Rollo.
break down why this girl is a whore. No.
What does the soft shoe represent from a sexual standpoint?
I know, and it's like, throw me a bone here, man. Give me something that I can actually work with. And so when I brought this up on yesterday's Rule Zero show, you had mentioned that you were just putting up this new YouTube video, which I kind of want to break down with you as we kind of go along here, because this is what I want. This is what I was talking about. I was like, I wish somebody would have sent this to me.
My girl sent it to me. She wants me to break down all these ones. She's like, I love it when you yell at women. I was like, what the?
Yeah.
But yeah, who'd have thunk?
Yeah. Steve, I am doing consulting. Do consider doing the group sessions that I have coming up, which will be middle of June. As soon as I get back from Miami, that's when those things are going to start taking off. If you want a private individual one-on-one counseling, yes, I'll still do that, but it will probably be a better deal for you if you just do like the Zoom calls and the things that I'm going to do. I'm going to do a group session, and it's going to be limited to a certain number of guys. So that is coming up. So keep that in mind and hit me up with another email and say, yeah, I can do that. No, I don't. Just let me know either way. So when I'm doing these, and I have this other one, you probably saw this on Wednesday. I broke down one young lady who, of course, is going through that epiphany phase. And I thought this would be a really good opportunity to sort of redefine, or to at least go back over certain old school red pill principles. And that was because here it is, black and white. And that's the one, I think that's the beauty really of TikTok right now, is because when guys see this, they go, oh, that's what Rollo meant when he meant the epiphany phase. That's what Rollo meant when he said, war brides, right? Or alpha widow, that kind of stuff.
Medium is the message, all kinds of things.
Message. And you can see it there, black and white. It's one thing for me to go and write an article about it and you read it and you go, And it's another thing for me to go on here and just explain it away in a live setting. It's another thing to see it happen live in real time and point that out as it happens. And I think that there's a real value in that. So say what you want to about Fresh and Fit and bringing the girls in there. At least, Myron sticking to message and saying, here's why you are experiencing what you're experiencing. And even if the girls aren't actually coming away from it having learned something, which
they're not.
Hopefully they are, maybe they aren't, whatever, but they're probably not. But at least the people that are watching it, watch it happen live in real time and they go, now I get it. Now I understand.
Yeah, like I said, I get it. To me, it's like a dad who beats his kids and then his kids promise they will never, ever beat their kids. Like, it's a really good lesson, but I don't want to give the dad credit for teaching it to him. Maybe I'm just too cynical, though. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
What a horrible metaphor.
Exactly. Well, and so like when this one girl came up, I guess your girlfriend or whatever sent this off to you, and then you kind of dissected this and picked this apart. And this girl's she's a piece of work, to be honest.
Oh, I know.
So I started doing these videos back on Wednesday, and I picked apart that one girl about the epiphany phase. And then prior to that, I did another, the fat girl and the skinny blonde girl, who were talking about talking about certain aspects of what we've been talking about in the red pill for a long time now, but see it happen live in person is I think a better education for a lot of guys. So that's why I'm entertaining the idea of actually doing this. Again, this is an experiment. I'm not saying I'm going to start another channel. I'm definitely not going to do that, but I wouldn't
You gotta add the Unsolved Mysteries theme music I have on mine. You gotta make it like one of those behind the music VH1 documentaries.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to sort of pick this apart. I think a lot of people don't like. Okay, before we get into this, I have to preface this because a lot of people will automatically say, "Well, she's just messed up." Like these girls you're picking these videos, or these videos are being delivered to you because the girls in these videos are just messed up, and I've got to throw that out there because you have to. That's the caveat, right? That's the standard caveat.
Damaged women, basically, so you can disregard this and still think of your virgin bride out there.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or it's the damaged woman thing is always going to be something that you're gonna run up against. Not all women are like that. That's what it ends up being. You're just picking the wrong girls.
Yeah, Madonna whore complex.
There's a whole lot of wrong girls on TikTok. I mean, there's a whole lot of wrong girls on social media right now, and it's like one thing I run into, and I think you do too. And I'd be curious to know how you respond to this. But I get this all the time in my comments now. It's like, well, even when I throw out like little 54-second videos, like video shorts, I'll get this. You're making sweeping generalizations about women and women's nature, and it's like, no. I've been doing this for like 20 some odd years. And I can't explain that in a 54-second video because that's what it's meant to be. But the first reflexive answer is usually sweeping generalizations. Well, all women aren't like that. And I've always been of the opinion that it's like, well, that's the scientific method, right? We don't work with like individual, like anecdotal, what is it? Anecdote is not the plural of data. Exactly. So like when people say that to you, like I'm sure you've had that thrown at you, like when they say, you use sweeping generalizations, what's your response to that?
Well, my response is the way I see it. Had I said all women were great, they wouldn't be sitting there talking about, well, actually some women are damaged, don't you know? So it's very clear they don't care. This is just, they need a statement to dismiss the thing that doesn't agree with their mental models, so that way they can continue to believe this stuff and then disregard this. And it's always the same thing. Either it's sweeping generalizations, it's she was just having a bad day, it's what's the other one? They're just damaged. Like, it doesn't really matter what they say because it all achieves the same point. I don't want to believe this. I'm sticking my head in the sand, and here's a sentence to throw at you so we can argue about this shit I made up over here, and we can avoid here. So I just tend to, instead of dealing with the statement that they're actually giving me, that surface, I just go to the subtext and deal with the core of what they're getting at. Like, it's okay, women are just women. They'll be fucked up sometimes, and they're not. It's like Schrodinger's box. They're not fucked up or not until you open it up and take a look, right?
Right. Well, I mean, and then I've written about this. Actually, I have an essay for this. It's called Damaged Goods. And it's this, and that I think women rely on the idea that if something is unflattering to female nature, it is therefore that woman is damaged. There's something that's wrong with her. She's a bad apple in the barrel of apples or whatever. And it's that's easier to do, I think, with women than it is with men, because we make men more like, men have to be more responsible because they have to be something, right? They have to be respectable, and they have to merit their respectability. Whereas women, if the woman is saying something, she's a gold digger, for example, or she's a really bad example of female nature, she's damaged. She's got daddy issues. She's got something else. And it's the easiest, cop out that there is. And I think that's number one. And the other one is like sweeping generalization. Oh, you're like sweeping generalizations when you talk about it. It's like, no, I've been doing this for a long time, but you can't convey that to somebody.
Yeah. They're more measured than sweeping, really.
Yeah, they're far more than that.
Maybe that's your response.
Yeah,
argue over the adjective.
Well, and then it's like you have to, because that's really an emotional response to it, right? It's well, you said something that I don't believe in, and so therefore it made me feel bad. So there must be something wrong with you, or you are here's the flaw in your reasoning. You're making sweeping generalizations because you're only looking at this one girl. It's like, well, no, I've been doing it for a lot longer than that. But then you have to sort of rely on the idea of say, well, generalizations are what we use in the scientific method. We have to, you take a larger pool and you a larger sample size, and from that you do polling and you do your experiments from a control group, right? Well, that's the general thing. That's how we know that the exception proves the rule. That's how we know there are exceptions at all. But explain that to them and it's like in one ear and out the other, and their eyes glaze over. So I was just wondering about that, because I get that. I've been getting that a lot lately, especially with the short, clip videos that I've been doing.
Yeah, actually, to be fair, sometimes it's just a K. Like there was this one girl on Twitter. She had one of them signal chats on there. She brought me on to talk about it. I made some mundane point about, don't ever take a girl on a date. That's a reward, not an interview. Mm-hmm. And some feminists started shitting all over me. This is deeply offensive. It's just essentially dismissing it, right? Sometimes all you can say is, okay, just fog it, right? Like the Robert Glover thing. Or, yeah, Dr. Robert Glover. Mm-hmm. They want to have their feelings validated. I don't agree with this emotionally. It hurts me to hear it. And you're like, okay, that's fair. But then just keep going. I find that one works well too. Because a lot of times, like you said, it's emotional. So if you just address the person's emotions as they're valid without validating them, you can at least carry on the conversation and keep going. Like, where do they take that? Well, that's offensive. Well, they're just damaged. Okay. Anyway, what are they going to say? Well, that's doubly offensive now.
I get that a lot when I'm covering things like Hybristophilia.
Yeah.
And
which one's that one again?
It's and I got into this in the War Brides episode. It's when women fall in love with it's prisoner's dilemma. Is it prisoner's dilemma? It's Stockholm syndrome, right? It's women who fall in love with bad boys and convicted killers and felons in prison. That's why they have to actually separate the prison population from female guards and stuff, because the incidence is so high amongst the female guards that they have to have in there as equity hires or whatever. They fall in love with them. They become ride or die girls for these guys who are rapists and killers and murderers and everything, and that they try to break them out of jail. And that's just one example of hybristophilia. It's also the falling in love with the dangerous man, falling in love with a guy who has a capacity for violence.
Oh, is that a lot like that psychological thing? Like, I know he loves me because he beats me kind of shit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's when I was talking about the Alpha Widows is part of this, but it was the War Brides dynamic, and why it is that women have a higher proclivity for Stockholm syndrome. Why is it that women are when we talk about hybristophilia, we don't talk about guys who have to be removed from the female population of prisoners and stuff. We talk only about women in that sense. We talk only about women falling in love with dangerous men, and it happens so predictably and so generally that it's a thing. And you say, well, it's a sweeping generalization. These girls are damaged. Well, maybe, but it always comes back to, oh, they're damaged. There's something wrong with them. They've got psychological issues. They've got daddy issues. They've got abandonment issues. They're BPD, blah, 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 blah. Anything to get you distracted away from the fact that it's only women that have
I wonder too that. Yeah. Oh, totally. But I wonder, so they're arguing it, like that whole dismissive argument is the idea that it's not true, right? As if your sole metric is it truth? Oh, yeah. It might almost be worth just taking a different route. The not all guns are loaded argument. It's like, yeah, not all guns are loaded, but if I act as if they're all loaded, the odds of me getting shot are basically nil. By sticking my face into one and take a look while I pull the trigger.
Metaphorical truth. That's metaphorical truth. That's I talked.
There's my truth.
Have you read my fourth book? Have you read this book right here yet?
I have not. It's still on the list. I know. I feel bad. I promise I will get there.
Because I talk about metaphorical truth quite a bit. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
Cool.
But metaphorical truth is exactly what you're saying. It's like it's like the folk tale that, and I'm stealing this from Brett Weinstein. I apologize, Brett, but it's you should treat like all porcupines as if they can shoot their quills, because that's the like they can shoot their quills out at you. And, you got shot with a porcupine quill. They can't actually shoot their quills.
No, but you'll act right.
But it's best to tell the children and have this folklore and this idea, the metaphorical truth that they can shoot quills, because if you don't, and you get too close, you're going to have porcupine quills in you, or it's all snakes are venomous, right?
It's funny. Do you remember that lunch we had back when we were doing that thing in Florida? There was you, me, and Ed Lattimore. Just kind of randomly happened to walk by each other and sat down, had a sandwich. And And he was talking about this, like, how it's hard to argue the truth in this stuff. And I'm like, who cares about truth? Like, if I can tell the guy the moon's made out of cheese and he works out 3 times a day, then as far as the red pill's concerned, moon's made out of cheese. And it was just funny because, like, yeah, that was like one of the first conversations we ever had, and it's coming back full circle because soccer moms are shitting on you on Twitter.
Yes, exactly. Or it's whataboutism, right?
Yeah.
It's always, what about this? What about that? So, anyways, that's my very long-winded way of saying, standard caveats apply when we're looking at this girl. I queued this up, by the way, to the point where she starts talking, like the first 4 clips that you do in this thing. And I want to give a little bit of background about this girl. Maybe you know better than I do, but this is her shtick, right? This is what she does. She takes videos with her phone, and she just basically, she's putting on makeup and she's talking to it as if you're like her best friend in the world. I don't know what her follower count is. I don't know what her
90 grand, which I don't know if that's big for TikTok or not.
That's I'm just getting to 97,000 on YouTube right now after like almost 2.5 years, 3 years. So yeah, that's another thing is like, when we're talking about women, it's like for a woman to come on social media and develop a following is much easier for women than it is for guys. Oh, yeah. So I just wanted to give a little bit of background so you know what you're getting into here. This is technically, from my point of view, this is a Chik Tok video. Okay, this is one of those instances where women are kind of like what I was looking for, anyways, when I was asking for samples was this. Yeah. Give me examples of women who are throwing things out there or bemoaning the fact, oh, there's no good guys, right? Or they're disillusioned by where they're at in life, or they can't understand certain things, because that's where the meat is, right? That's where the actual steak is instead of the staple, and that's where we can actually go to town and work on this. And it's not just like I think I doubt women are going to learn from this, but I think it's beneficial for women as well as it is for guys too, so that they understand where they're at. Because this chick right here is averages at best.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with her, but there's nothing extraordinary.
Average at best, and will continue to deteriorate. Let's just have a look at her real quick. This is from your video. Thank you, by the way, for Rian Stone for producing this. Maybe I will put the link.
Dude, it's worth it just for the ending.
Yeah, exactly. Let's. Where did I put it? There it is. Did I take that? Yeah, I did. Did I put the audio back? Yeah.
All right.
Here we go. All right.
I just don't get the absurdity of the lying. Like, I didn't go into a Tinder date expecting Hallmark movie fantasy realness. Why are you pointing to houses and saying things like that could be ours one day? First, they say these things because they think women want to hear them. Second, many men think it's just absolutely normal to do this, when really it's just indicative of very worrying behavioral patterns. And this man who just engaged in very manipulative, narcissistic behavior is a teacher. I can't even put myself in the mindset of not feeling bad about doing something like that to someone. And this is coming from someone who steals things from people.
If you still don't get it.
I thought that was interesting. Steals things from people, really? Yeah. Well, at least you're admitting it. Oh, hang on one second. I got to do this for Red Pill Mike. Thanks, Red Pill Mike. Been a while since I contributed to the Red Pill Metal God of the Sphere. Thank you. Question. Will women ever stop falling prey to the temptation? This is a good question. Falling prey to the temptation of social media and quit making their good years expendable youth while living the post-wall years gunned down cold on a raw deal?
No. Why would they? What possible incentive is there?
Exactly. I was going to say, what incentivized by what?
Yeah. It's like telling guys, just stop watching porn. All right, replace that with something better. What do you got?
So from those clips, the one that I focused on the most, and this is something that I hadn't really heard. I'm familiar with ghosting. Obviously, I've done videos, I've done articles about it before, and we know what ghosting is. And women love ghosting when it works for them. They hate ghosting when it's the guy who, like, they really, I felt such a connection. Why are guys such shits? And
dude, she hated it so bad she did like an undergraduate psychology degree just to find a way to call him an asshole. It was amazing.
Yeah. And so, but the one thing that I was unfamiliar with, and then of course, what did she say? It was ghosting. There was,
future faking.
Future faking was the one I wanted to focus on. Like, future faking, I thought was interesting. Here's where your education begins, gentlemen. Future faking to me is a very much beta game, right? It's
100%.
It's pre-selling. And I can understand why chicks would be very kind of put off by that. It's almost overselling yourself. So like as far as future faking is concerned, what exactly is that?
Well, it's cheap signals of commitment, which I loved from that angle, because if you guys have read David Buss, Cindy Minson, he talks about this thing, the commitment skepticism bias. Basically, girls are, from evolutionary standpoint, they're hardwired to distrust cheap signals, because it's very easy that guy would, and this guy exactly did that. He ghosted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have to wait out. That's why girls really care about rings, because they want expensive social signals for commitment, stuff that you can't fake. Mm-hmm. And then that was the point of this, is everybody thinks these girls are Machiavellian overlords. Sure enough, they still fall for dumb shit like this. So future faking is literally like, hey, our kids could live there, or I could picture you as the girl to get old with, basically promising the fantasy, her own kayfabe. And they only work when somebody is desperate or gullible. Now, which one she is, I don't want to judge. And I don't want the terms of service of either platform to think I'm judging, so I'll leave it there.
Yeah, exactly. I when I have analyzed beta game in the past, when I've looked at guys who are like, it's that blue pill ideal. Like, this is what you have to do. Build yourself up. Like, I'm the perfect boyfriend, right? I've talked about that for forever. It's like selling yourself as pre-selling. Like, this is where we're going to be. This could be you and me, baby. It's kind of like a reverse version of, and I mentioned this last week, is like on Friends, right? Where Ross and Rachel are like, hey, if you're 30 and I'm 30 and we're still single, then let's promise to get married. And the laugh track goes, and it's like, yeah, back in the 90s when we were dumb and we didn't realize the actual, what hypergamy was, we didn't understand what women's mating strategy was, which is their life strategy. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for empowered women who need you to be you in the right place at the right time. But when she's 23, 24, 25, she's not looking for you at 30. She's looking for a hot guy in the foam cannon party. She's looking for the good time. She's looking for the emotional highs, not the stability at that particular time. What guys do, I think, and and this is not just this is not some recent creation. This is like something that I think guys have been sort of selling themselves as for a long time, because they focus only on the beta buck side of hypergamy, right? It's protection, provisioning, and parental investment. I would be perfect for you. I would make the best guy in the world. And so what they've done, I think maybe in this century, in the 21st century, is taken that to the nth degree, because they think that, this is what, you're serious and I'm serious. And so I believe what women say, and women tell me that they want to have a stable boyfriend, and they want to have a guy who's going to be there for the duration, is going to be a good father to the kids, and basically invest, relational equity into the relationship. And they try to pre-sell that. This is what I'm about. This is what I could be. And so
I'm a great babysitter.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Don't worry, baby. I'll be the dad who steps up, not the stepdad.
Oh, those poor bastards.
And that's a form, I think, anyways, of future faking. And is it future faking? I think one of the frustrations that this girl has right here, and everybody's going to say, well, she's not worth it. Why are we even talking about her? She's not pretty, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I'm going to show you this other girl here who is much more attractive than her, who's complaining about basically the same thing.
And realize, too, you guys are doing exactly what Rollo said before. You're just finding an excuse to dismiss her.
Exactly.
Something to think about.
Yeah, it's like it's the one I do, like, how would you open?
Oh, yeah, I love those.
I'm too cool to open a girl like that. It's like, well, that's
sure
not
you are.
The exercise, idiot. It's like, why would I do this math problem? I already know how to do dozens of other math problems. No, it's the point of the exercise is to do the exercise. But like, so the future faking thing to me, I think dovetails in nicely to the nice guy thing. And I'm of the opinion that, and I think one of the reasons why this girl does videos like this is she's disillusioned with the nice guy thing. Most girls today don't believe that there is such a thing as a nice guy. Like even the guy who is, if you're a nice guy, by the way, and you're genuinely like 100% nice, you're a genuine 100% dude, you're in a tough spot, because you probably believe in your own, you probably gaslit yourself. You probably believe you're a nice guy, or you want to, do the right thing kind of thing. And then women see that and they go, you just want to skin my pants.
Well, that was the point of my video, which it's not out yet. Just so you know, guys, you're getting like free previews here. But you notice that the first guy, future faking, love bombing, all the shit she wants to hear, buys into the lie. He goes to her. She's mad. You can tell she's still got a smile on her face. So she's kind of jilted that wasn't out, ended up to be real. Then the next video is her going on a date. Doctor, super attractive, good job. First thing she says, yeah, I haven't talked to him for a month. I've just been ghosting him for a month. And so finally I decided to give him a date, but he's so boring and I'm just done with it. And it reminds me of my best friend. He had this 3-year-old kid and they were up in Winnipeg. If you don't know, Winnipeg is cold as shit. And the kid was outside and she didn't want to put on her gloves. So they kept trying to put on her gloves. She's having a temper tantrum. I don't want to put on the gloves. But her hands were freezing. And so she's sitting there crying because her hands are cold, but she doesn't want to put on the gloves. And I thought, I don't know why I still remember that, but that's exactly what this girl with her dating life is like. She doesn't want to put on the gloves, and she can't recognize that the gloves are what would make her hands warm. If you guys can map that to sexual strategy, I'm sure you follow me along here.
It's almost like it's not about the nail, right?
Yeah.
They want the solution to their problems. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's where I was going to take this to, is this girl is the girl on the couch. This girl is the girl on the couch with the nail in her head, and the guy's is like, I'm the idiot on the couch. You and I are both the idiots on the couch right now, trying to pull the nail out of this broad's head, right?
Yeah.
So she doesn't want that. She doesn't want that solution. She just wants to vent. She wants men aren't good listeners. Yeah, because we're problem solvers and we're trying to take the nail out of your damn head. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go Google or go search for this on YouTube. I can't do it because I know that I'll get a copyright strike or whatever if I did this. But because it's such a popular video, go look up "It's Not About the Nail" on YouTube. Right? Well, after you're done with this video, look that up. Yeah, it's still funny as hell. It's like one of the best skits that there ever was. It's all of like a minute and a half long, and it's well worth a minute and a half because it teaches a valuable lesson, and it's also very funny. But that's the thing, is like that this girl right here doesn't want her problem solved. She doesn't want, even the girl's like, I'll show you this other girl, this other blonde here in just a second. She doesn't want her problem solved. She wants to be able to go on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and she wants to be able to vent and talk about it, and she wants people to listen to her, even if there's no audience, or she presumes there's 50,000 people watching this video. That's enough, right? That's the affirmation, that's the validation side of the whole thing. Yeah, got it. But the operative in all of this is that the solution to the problem is not what she's looking for. She's looking for you to listen to it and to deal with it. And I think at the end of your video here, you explain why that is. But it's the worst thing that could happen for this girl is to solve her problems.
Well, the solution presented itself, and she just wasn't happy with that. It was boring.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember? And maybe you, because you're old school enough to remember this. Do you remember? What is it? Kate Bollock. She wrote for the Atlantic for a while. She wrote an article for the Atlantic called "All the Single Ladies," and then she wrote a book called Spinster.
Oh, it sounds familiar.
Yeah, and this was back in like 2012, I think. So it was quite. Sounds like we're talking a decade ago, thereabouts. And I remember reading that. I never read the Spinster book, but I did read the article in the Atlantic, and she actually got her. That story was licensed by a sitcom or a TV show or something, because they wanted to use that material to create like a pilot for a sitcom or whatever, put it on commercial TV kind of thing back then. And I thought about this, and this is where I kind of came into this understanding with this girl right here, or It's Not About the Nail, is like the worst thing that could have happened to Kate Bollock is that she found the guy of her dreams.
Then all the attention goes away. Yeah, Talk about incentivizing bad behavior, huh?
Yeah, well, and that's really what Chik Tok is about, right? That's really what OnlyFans is about. The worst thing you could do for these girls is solve their problems, because as soon as you solve their problem, they'll find something else to have a problem about. But as soon as you do that cuts their revenue stream. I don't know if you're making money off of TikTok, but if you're a brand of me kind of girl, and you're an influencer, and you're making money from ad dollars, or you have pay pigs, or you have got people tipping you somehow, I don't know. The worst thing that can happen to you is you don't have anything to complain about. You don't have any women to go, oh, you can totally, that resonates with me. I can totally relate with you.
Yeah, it is what it is. They don't want to be saved, bro. Let them burn. Like, whatever. Read them last rites. Everybody has their sayings. And everybody who's shitting on either one of these ones thinking, oh, they're just damaged, they're just broken, and dismissing them. It's like, look, I guarantee if she's put in a situation where her hypergamous best option is there, she'll start acting right because she doesn't want to lose that guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of hate the catch-22 that everybody is in where, like, where are all the good men? And if there was the good man, they would act right, but all the incentives are all skewed. And so really it's like, how do you get out of that? You don't really. You just, if she gets lucky, she'll find the man that gets her to act right. And then she starts acting right before it's too late or after it's too late, whatever. But then that's the problem because most of the guys aren't ready to be that guy. And if they are that guy, like, why would I do that with this damaged one when I can meet a girl that's, way further down on the crazy hot scale, right?
Yeah. Well, and when you look at this girl, and we'll move along here in the video here just a second. But when you look at this girl, like I said, average at best, if you even want to call her that, okay? There's going to be guys who are just going to shit all over her in the comments. Okay, whatever, have fun. But the thing is, this is like that girl right there. It has, what'd you say, 90,000, followers on TikTok.
Yeah, it's more popular than anybody shitting on her in this channel.
Yeah, exactly. More popular than me or you, for that matter, too, right? So, like, judging from subs and followers, right? Yeah. But so if that's the girl that is kind of stuck in that, I think you said it's a Sisyphean, practice.
Oh yeah,
pushing
keeps rolling that rock up the hill, and then it keeps ghosting her.
it never solves itself, and it shouldn't solve itself because the moment you have a resolution, that's when you start losing followers. That's when you start losing revenue. That's when you don't have anything else to complain about because it's the complaining and the negativity and the trapped in that negative feedback loop is what keeps the lights on, right? It's how you afford the cell phone bill so you can do it in the first place. But I just thought of this a second ago is like she's average at best, and I'm being kind, but if that's the case for her, what about the girl who's like maybe let's just say she's a 5. What about the girl who's a 6? Right? Who's doing the same thing? What about the girl who's the 8, who's doing the same thing and complaining about this? Now, I think what happens is when you see a girl like this, who's like, let's just say she's a 5, okay? Generous 5. But when other women say, well, if this, it's kind of like the same thing as like MGTOWs will say, well, if, these rich guys, if Bezos and what is it? Bill Gates can't make it work. They can't keep their wives happy. What chance do you have?
That's the female equivalent.
So when women see this girl who's a 5 and she can't find happiness, or I'm better looking than she is, and she can't find happiness, and I'm better looking. So what chance do I have? It's like that same kind of negative feedback loop because it's not working for her, even if she can rate herself as being a little bit above the other one.
Mm-hmm. It is what it is, I guess. All right, guys, you want your red meat? Here you go. Watch the whammon doing whammon things. Big bad red pill guys.
This is pretty good. This is pretty good. This is true. Future faking is the old Tom Likas trick of writing your phone number on the ATM receipt with 6 or 7 figure balance. Yes. And just so you guys know, I remember when he did this show and I was laughing my ass off back in the day. Like they were saying, what you had to do if you wanted to get a chick, like a gold digger chick, right, at a club to get a number or whatever, what you would do is you go to like an ATM, you go pick up the receipts because not everybody was just throwing the receipts willy nilly everywhere back in the day.
Yeah.
And you find a receipt where you had like, a $20,000 balance or like a 5, 6, 7 figure balance. You keep those receipts and put them in your wallet and hold on to them.
And use them for phone numbers.
You go, hey, I gotta go, but let me give you my phone number, and you put it on the back.
Oh, we really lost something when you didn't have to write down phone numbers anymore.
I know, and that's completely pointless now. But back then, it was just evil. It was that was good game back in the day. Thanks for reminding me of that. I hadn't thought of that in a long time. I remember that episode too. Let me get to a couple more of these. Sir, Mr. Jason, what's going on, guys? Thanks for everything you do. I just downloaded Ryan's book on Audible. See, you just sail,
dude. You'll like it. I guarantee you'll enjoy it. It's like rational male narrative format, different set of philosophical ideas, and it shows that for once there's not everybody trying to be Tucker Max on their books where they have to rate how awesome they are. There's some embarrassing stuff too, but hopefully you learn something from it and enjoy the time.
And then Saeed his says, never a better or worse time to be a man in history. Yeah. Depends on which side of the fence you happen to be on. Either put yourself in the top 20% of men and have the most leverage over women or struggle. Love how feminism has made the game so easy. Do the work. It can be easy if you do the work. All right, let me put these back in here real quick. I want to watch the rest of this because I like what you said here. This is pretty good. Tell me if you don't want me to do any of the. I don't want to give.
Oh no, it's fine. Whatever.
Arm here for you, but
fake futuring is a guy lying and telling a girl what she wants to hear in order to sleep with her. Now I get it. Lying is bad. I get it. When we go down that rabbit hole of deceptive practices in the dating market, nobody's going to come off looking good. Put that aside too. I'm talking here about an ego defense. There's a reason that fake futuring works so well, and she knows it too down in her heart of hearts. I mean, basic body language. When she's talking about a date with a guy who's talking about a house and kids, she can't stop smiling. Those are unconscious behaviors. Our body cannot lie the way our mouth can. She wanted the fantasy. She wanted to be told the fantasy. Now, I don't know how they acted outside of whatever details she gave here, but that doesn't really matter because in my experience, when people tell you their stories, they crop out the details that they don't find important. So every detail here is the one that mattered. Another aspect of this is...
All right, let me stop right there. The Double Mint Twins commercial was a... You're an artist, man. You're a poet and an artist.
we all do our best. I can't play guitar anymore, so I got to do with what I got.
People don't know what the hell. What is Rollo talking about? We get it.
Yeah.
No.
It's good though. You're catching on. I know you caught on, but for the audience, I try to give them subtext too. So, like even the edits, I make sure the edits try and reinforce the message whenever possible.
Yeah. So as far as like, okay, so future faking, whatever. I think that's it's an interesting, like, I guess, turn of phrase because to me, it seems like it locks into what I've said before is women are not looking for the good guy and the bad guy in the same guy, right? They're not looking for the dark triad alpha male, got hot guy in the foam cannon party. They're not looking for that guy at the same time that they're looking for a guy who's future faking, right? I'm going to be perfect for you. I'm going to make all your dreams come true. I've got good prospects. I'm the winner. I'm crossing the finish line, right?
Yeah.
And women aren't looking for that guy in the same guy at the same place at the same time. So when a woman is at, like, say 22, 23, 24 years old, she's looking for a different dude than she is when she's, I don't know, how old do you think this girl is anyways?
I say she's got to be Epiphany, somewhere Epiphany. I don't know exactly where, but definitely right, probably 28, 29, 30 at most.
Somewhere in there. Yeah. I would definitely agree. And it's interesting to me, the rationalization that goes, that's why I love the Chik Tok videos, right? That's why.
The hamster's going in real time.
Yeah. And so you can sort of see the process of how she comes to this conclusion. And whenever I'm watching like Fresh and Fit and I see these girls on there and they say the same thing. They say it all of the same thing. They make the same mistakes. They use the same language. They are very, very predictable. And I'm going to, sorry, Myron, if you're watching, but when I'm there next week, this is what I'm going to do. If I'm in front of these girls, I'm going to say, how did you come to that opinion? How did you know
what you should do?
Belief. That's what
you should do. That shit where you write down what they're gonna say, put it on a pice of paper in front of you, and wait for them to say it, then flip it over.
That's a really good idea. Yes, yes. Write it down as here's what she's gonna say, and hold it up. Hold it up to the camera so she can.
Was this your card?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the same thing over and over again. It's this predictability, and I'm like I said, I'm fascinated with how they come to these conclusions. It's this, and it's not just this generation. Like a lot of guys will say, well, we're really screwed up generation, these degenerate women or whatever. It's like, no.
Yeah. Crazy. The first one that we've seen on film is the one that's messed up. Every other one was great. Go figure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's this constant, well, I mean, we're going to, we want to defend against like things that are unflattering, right? But the fact remains is like, how do they come to these conclusions? This is how. This is the process. This is the thinking process, such as it is, of what, why it is rationalizing or coming to a reason as to why they are in the position that they're in at that time.
Post hoc justification for an emotional response.
Yeah.
That's why I don't get where a lot of guys think that women have such a great go of life. I'm like, I don't think so. Like, imagine if your emotional drive was your, like, how you made decisions. That's like a prison. That's like a golden prison. Like, the only advantage they have is that guys are so thirsty, they'll essentially hide truth from them until they hit the wall. And that's kind of I know it's different than your argument for the wall. Mine is the time when women stop being lied to because everybody wants to fuck them, and then they start being treated like human beings. It's like a zeroing out for girls.
Yeah, it's the value that goes. A Spin Doctor was really good, and this kind of locks in nicely. It's the first thing that girls on Fresh and Fit, when asked what they bring to the table, is I have my own business and I have my own career. Right?
Jeez, so they act like the beta male they want to settle down with, and that's
exactly,
their value.
And that's what you mentioned later on in this video. Here, it's like she is the man. Right? She's looking for what was it? And I didn't.
Narcissist and Echo.
Yeah, we're going to get to the narcissist thing here in just a second, but I didn't. You're right about that. Like the actual story of Narcissus is not just the guy who falls in love with himself and falls into the pool. There's a lot more behind that story that I think is even more important than, at the end where he falls into the pool and dies, right? Because he's in love with himself. But you're right. There's this idea that the only value that they can bring when it comes to like long term is to be able to provide, right? Well, if that's the case, then why are you looking for a guy at all? What's the point?
Well, I don't think they're empathizing. Like, everybody thinks women are empathic, and they're not. They're solipsistic. That's not the same thing. Like, empathy is putting yourself into another person's shoes. Solipsism is pretending that other person is you wearing your shoes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing. They're like, what do I want? And so I'm going to tell this person who's obviously me, this is what I want. It's like, what do they call it? Franco calls it in Practical Female Psychology, the early frame announcement. Where it kind of, it puts all the cards on the table. It's their honest assessment. So when you ask, what does a girl bring? And she's like, well, I have a good job and I'm good with kids and I'm nice and kind. You're like, okay, so you're looking for beta bucks at this point. But it's funny because then once you're and this is why you have a hard time with guys sending you TikToks. They send you anger phase shit of just women doing slutty things, and you're like, I can't use this.
Just dancing.
Well, it's because you're still in the anger phase, and whatever, it's a phase. But once you're out of it, you can kind of see like, okay, this is why this is happening. This is why this is happening. This is a great example, and this is just a woman that's, building rage bait for the kind of guy who doesn't get to sleep with enough women in his life. I think there's that subtle difference.
I think another aspect that you have to consider is when it comes to like nice guys, or it comes to future faking, I think one of maybe we'll hear about this more in the future. I don't know, but I think one of the things that really pisses off women about nice guys now is the deception aspect, or they think that they're being deceived. Even like I said before, if you're really a nice guy, you got your work cut out for you, because no woman believes you, and the women that you want to get with at that particular, like, because I don't want a girl who's run through. I want to get a good, fresh, virgin bride or whatever. Like guys are pointing, but they're going to do it the right way. They're going to do it because the Bible told them, or their, Islam told them, or, whatever the religious beliefs are told them to do it this way. And they sell themselves future fake, right? Or like women think that they are faking because it's this story that's meant to rationalize them into bed.
And they're not wrong. Ever since they've been 13, thousands of guys have been trying it. So it's like, it's not that they're smarter at this stuff. They just have way more experience than any guy out there. So I can't really blame them for and that's the worst part is like, after being in the red pill, like how Carl says, like being red pilled to guys is our like big thing now. It's like, I kind of like the feminists have a point. Some guys are really, really pulling this shit hard.
Right. Yeah. Well, and again, it triggers that existential fear, which is I will lose control over hypergamy. Future faking is, it's just this side. It smacks. It has the same flavor as prearranged marriage is what it does. It really, like if somebody's making that decision for you, one of the reasons why women lose their minds over not being able to like decide who it is that they want to marry, or why they want to, they say it's barbaric, it's patriarchy, it's horrible,
yeah, but it's not your fault.
So, yeah. See, and that's by inch or by mile, right? So yeah, if you're living a culture where your father says, I'm gonna marry you off for 4 head of goat and a few chickens or something, that's kind of barbaric, right? But if somebody comes up to you and says, as a woman, you only have these dudes to choose from, it's not quite prearranged marriage, but it is, and the longer you wait, the fewer options that you have.
Yeah, any color you want, as long as it's black.
And they don't want to be told that. That's why they lose their shit on Fresh and Fit. That's why this girl has a following, because it resonates, because that what they want is this perfect guy to just waltz into their life and be the guy that they choose. They choose him organically. It's not that they chose that guy or they settled for that guy because they didn't have any other options. It's because they magically, found this guy in a romantic comedy or whatever, just waltz in their life and he's the perfect guy. And guys, if you are still stuck in this blue pill mentality, if you're still relying on beta game, pre-selling yourself like that, future faking, whatever, like guys who are accused of future faking, I would say probably are trying to honestly say, I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't. This is the belief question again, Ryan. Like, do they actually believe in this? They probably do actually believe that they're going to do the right thing. They're not going to be like other guys, and they're going to provide you with this great life. And I'm going to be a good dad. I'm going to be reliable. I'm going to be dependable. I'm not going to be like these schmucks that these jerks that you've been dating and banging in the foam cannon party, right? These are the guy. I'm going to be that guy. And women say that guy is forcing me to go with him, or he thinks that I ought to go with him because he's trying to rationalize or through reason convince me that I should spend the rest of my life with this guy.
Yeah. It runs deep too, because the easiest way to be an effective liar is to lie to yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
That's again, Evo Psych. I know I'm going to reference Bus again, but that's exactly it. They figured out like male sexual strategy and female sexual strategy is adversarial.
Yeah.
By nature, individually.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is it's been a constant arms race with, men have learned to lie better, women learn to detect lies, and vice versa. So what happened, and I think this is like the latest iteration, and that's just the theory. I don't know if there's anything advanced. You'll know more than me, but is that self-delusion is great because lies take effort. They take energy. You have to pay attention. You have to remember 2 sets of facts. But if you just self-delude into believing the lie that's beneficial for you, you don't have to spend any cognitive energy. And you have none of the tells that liars have. So from all accounts, you look completely honest.
Yeah, you'll pass a lie detector test. You'll pass a polygraph test for stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. Well,
that's why I'm sure Kavanaugh was doing exactly what What's-Her-Face said he was doing too. And she believed it in her heart of hearts.
Yeah. And would have passed a polygraph test as a result of that, because there's that belief in it. I 100% agree, because and this is a little off topic, but it's like there's power in placebo, right? People, if they think they're going to feel an effect of a drug and you just gave them a sugar pill and you gave the other control group the real drug, the guys who are taking the sugar pill are going to feel, or they're going to think that they're actually feeling something as a result of that.
Like the crazy, it's working better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, almost. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, yeah, because it was. I think you know what I'm talking about. They're actually having a bunch of problems with like the methodology of medical studies now when it comes to pills and that they're noticing, and they can't explain why, but the placebos are more effective than the actual drug. Yeah, and they can't explain it.
Yeah, they're convinced that because the guys get gaslight themselves and they convince themselves. Now, if that's the case about like a trial drug, imagine if the belief, whether it's fake or it's real, imagine whether that belief is going to decide whether or not you're going to reproduce, or you're going to eat, or you're going to be able to do something. You're going to survive, right? Of course, there is definitely power in placebo effect. Like there's a belief in a particular like talisman, right? If you're fighting on the battlefield and you see your flag of your country behind you, that might emphasize you to like fight that much harder. Or,
even just think about it, your favorite hockey teams on the playoffs, and if you're not wearing your special jersey, they're not going to win. Like all these kind of things, and they genuinely believe that.
Yeah, and it will amplify that. They'll even get an endorphin rush. They'll get a testosterone rush as a result of the belief in that particular thing. So this is which Dante said this. I was a perfect nice guy the whole relationship. She thought I was cheating. She ran the relationship to the ground. The hardest 2 years ever.
I'm surprised she wasn't cheating.
Sorry, man.
It's whatever. It's better to learn it early.
Yeah,
all these guys, like, I learned it at 50. It's like, dude, wouldn't you have been rather cheated on at 24?
Yeah, at least you got out. You got off easy. At least learn from it.
Where would you be if that chick wasn't sitting there and you're standing at the door? Your story, your Batman origin story, where you're staring there. Do I go to the door? Do I walk back to that? I'm out of here.
Yeah. 4
books later, I was like, you almost want to thank. Like I wouldn't, but you almost want to thank her.
This is great, Seinfeld. It's not a lie if you believe it. Yeah. It's George Jerry on the TV show. Yes, I remember that one. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like when At the end of that video, I saw you threw Pat Stedman in there, and I just laughed my ass off.
He's the gift that keeps on giving. Was that not perfect though? That video he had on there, we explained the exact worst thing you could possibly do.
Yeah,
with such glee.
but every time I think of I try not to think of Pat Stedman, but every time I think of it, I think of that one tweet that he had where he was like coming down on me or was coming after me about the epiphany phase. And he's like, well, don't you think that women honestly believe that when they get to be like 30, that they're going to turn over a new leaf and they're going to change their life and they're going to, they really want to get right with God and they really want to do things the right way and they really going to make you wait to have sex with them for 3 dates because they want you to think they're, all blah, 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 blah. Don't you think that's genuine, right? Don't you think they believe that? And my answer is, yeah.
Yeah, they believe it.
I think exactly that's what they think. That's not the point of whether or not they believe it. It's the timing of when it comes up and when they need to believe it. That's the problem. That's the point. It's not about the genuineness or the disingenuousness.
No, I laugh. I still love that because it just so happens. It's like, what's the saying about people never trust? What was the saying? Never trust a man whose paycheck is based on telling lies or something. You know the saying I'm trying to get at here? I'm mumbling it up. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, nobody can believe a thing that their paycheck is based on not believing. It's like, of course, they're in epiphany phase. They're going to want these things, and so they're going to act the way they get it. That's why they put on a sundress and a summer hat, because they know the kind of guy who wants them in this like trad thing. They've been waiting 10 years for it. They think, summer dress. We go to the same church. This is perfect. Mm-hmm. Go to the date. You wear your heart on your sleeve. You tell them everything you want about yourself, and then they're like, okay, thanks for the shopping list of how to be exactly what you want for the perfect wife. And girls naturally having a first degree or a first standard deviation of a borderline personality disorder will try to fit as the lead actress in your one-man play, Beta Bucks, West Side Story for men.
Yeah.
And then, 2 years later, the romance wears off, the honeymoon phase wears off, and then mask comes off, and then that's where you end up with these ridiculous situations where guys end up, either I buy the rational male or I start a shotgun, and you're just like, Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree. Like that's sort of the incentive to sort of get yourself right, like just pre-wall or maybe just post-wall. And by wall, I mean intellectually. I mean, it's not necessarily physical always. It's can I compete at the same level that I used to compete? Yes. That's the definition of the wall. But then you get a girl like this, right? And she's not ready to give it up. She's not ready.
Oh yeah, she's having none of it.
She's not ready for the humility. It's still that hubris, right? It's like she's not going to put the sun hat on. Eventually she might, but right now at this stage it's too early for her to put the sun hat on. Does she genuinely? That was my next question. Do you think that she genuinely believes this? Do you think
I think she believes whatever she says at the time. When she says it, she believes it. In fact, her mouth is how she's processing what she believes. Mm-hmm. As she's running her mouth on this, she looks up the Psychology Today, sort of thing. What's fake futuring or whatever. Mm-hmm. She believes it, and then she'll believe it because it makes her feel better. And then when something else happens, she'll make up a different story and she'll believe that.
Yeah.
Just is what it is.
Let me keep going. This is
one that many clueless men have, where no color correction on this Machiavellian masterminds who are ready to catfish you, get married, pop out a kid, and then divorce you for cash and prizes. I mean, that's the dream. But they aren't dark triad masterminds. They're just women. It's clear that people who get fake futured are missing something in their own strategies. I'm going to reference Dr. David Buss here, an Evo Psych professor who studied this stuff for his entire career, and he points out female behavior. In this case, the commitment, skepticism, bias. Now what this means is that women are inherently distrustful of cheap commitment signals. And this is because, cave women who learned to hold out ended up having a loyal cave dad, and the cave babies survive more often, and so it's something we've selected for. And this is the key part. The key part is, even though it's hardwired, even though it's instinctive behavior, even though it's technically a life-saving strategy, and it has been for as long as we've been, modern man, it doesn't mean women are good at it.
Yeah. Far
from it. Now, as for deception and cheap investment signals go, is it a sexual strategy? Is it red-pilled? No. Why? It's because it's lying. Now, this isn't some lying is always wrong and you should never do it, moral posturing. I'm not going to go there. But notice,
And this man who just engaged in very manipulative, narcissistic behavior is a teacher.
If you didn't pick up on that thinly veiled thread, it's possible in this day and age for a jilted woman to attempt to ruin a man's career and his life for stuff like this. Now, it's not always going to work, and there's plenty of strategies, and deceptive cheek signals are just not the most effective and have way too much risk attached to them. Plus, you don't really need them. And the other part is about the offloading of responsibility. Someone with the self-awareness would understand that they bought into this lie and they went along with it. Now, people only get conned, they only get grifted when they're selfish or afraid or greedy. Sometimes all three. Instead, the man in this example had to have a mental disorder, so we wash our hands of it. It's not my fault. Swipe the next guy, move on. The reason I love the red pill framework for dating, the reason I love the red pill framework for relationships is that it forces men to be self-aware enough to realize they have a culpability, and that's the part they can change, and that's what they need to do. If you don't want to lose your job to some social media attack because of somebody you ghosted, plausible deniability, not lying. Let them have their story. I mean, she'll still be pissed when you ghost, but you haven't given her the rope to hang you with. It's not pointing at houses and saying you want to be a father. It's saying maybe. It's saying I haven't met the right girl yet. It's always putting that challenge up there. It's not outright telling her what your plans for your life are. It's that shot to reality, but I'm going to get to that a little bit later. The point is, the typical girl in this situation isn't trying to solve a problem. The typical girl in this situation wants to emote. And the sizable amount of commenters in this example here that are cheering her on are more than happy to fuel this downward spiral for entertainment value. I have a video where I make an egg sandwich and tell you about how women have been lied to for their entire lives. And it does seem like a total shift.
Oh,
Great example.
Yes.
In college, I used to be friends with this professor, and one day he said to me, you know, men actually have it harder than women. And instantly I was like, fuck you. But like recently I've thought more about it, and I think there's a point to it. Hear me out. Little boys, on the other hand, are given unrealistic expectations for reality. They're told straight up lies like you can do anything you want, you can have anything you want. And positivity to that extent is toxic. Socialization as a woman encourages the development of critical thinking, hence why women go into detailed analysis about social interaction. We're constantly trying to assess our circumstances to ensure our safety. Men and boys are not incentivized to think critically in the same way. Because if society is already nice to you, why would you ever question it?
Right. That's what I wanted to throw up there. That I was waiting for that part right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we even need to, like, it's painfully obvious what just happened there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can see where the belief set begins. It originates right there. And this is, I've said this in at least a couple of episodes. I've written essays about this as well, where we live in a female gynocentric social order, right? But we also live in a female correct social order. So the only correct way to think about things or to have a thought is from the female experience. So to her, she believes this. She thinks, oh, we don't teach our boy. Well, first of all, it's social constructionism. That's number one. So that we can throw that one right out the window, because as far as human nature is concerned, it's like everything is learned. So, you know, it's nebulous society teaches these kids, teaches these boys that they can do anything they want. And that's dangerous positivity, right? Yeah. It's almost exactly the opposite. And it's provably the opposite, and has been so for at least 40 years now, where we have empowered little girls through popular media, through music, through Disney, Pixar, through
literally you can be anything.
Yeah, literally you want to be an astronaut, you be an astronaut. Where at the same time we're taking little boys, and I can show you the statistics. Statistically, she is 100% categorically wrong.
Opposite.
And I can show you the stats one after the other to the point where you will just be blue in the face, because there's so many stats that prove against us. But we're still operating from this presumption that we live in this patriarchy, and it's a socially constructed patriarchy on top of that. And therefore, the reason why these kids, the reason why this guy turned into who he is because he was taught this through social constructionism. And it's even more dangerous because he's a teacher and he's going to repeat this to somebody else. But he's trying to deceive, and he's teaching others to try to deceive other girls.
Yeah, I don't know. the part that got me, and I'm still not convinced. Like and I know I'm always the skeptic. I'm thinking this girl's read Rational Male and she's given in the exact script because it's like beat for beat. It's just too perfect. Like I don't trust her. I think she's lying, but I know you keep showing me the stuff. You're like, are you sure they're lying? And I'm after like the 500th example. I'm like, all right, maybe you're onto something here.
Yeah, that they believe in it. It's it's that placebo effect. It's like you believe in it enough and it becomes your reality. It's
solipsism. She's literally thinking of men as if they're women. Like she describes the female experience, puts that onto a dude, and she's like, those guys are toxic. Look at how they're acting. And it's almost like a form of self-hate.
Well, she's upset that guys that first of all, we live in a female correct society, but she's upset that guys aren't female correct enough. Yeah. Right? That's not the natural innate response for guys. Like God forbid that, of course, the guys she's interested in are guys who have nothing to do with that. Are the Hybristophilia thing, right? It's the dark triad guys. It's the hot guy that she wants to have, hot monkey sex with when she's in her sexual prime or SMP prime. And now she's upset that there might be some guy out there who might try to trick her into a long-term commitment with her. And again, like that prearranged marriage thing, like I was saying before, is removing that control over hypergamy over this girl that is inch by inch, I think on some level of consciousness is being realized, like on the limbic level, I guess, that the time is slowly inching and etching away. And
for sure.
And so when she has complaints about that, and she honestly believes this, she does honestly believe that guys guys are not taught to be have critical analysis about people. No, that's because women innately are more interested in people and men are more interested in things. This is, again, we can go back to Dr. Steven Pinker about this, like the innate differences and the innate proclivities and the ways that men and women process emotion. We process it differently. We don't have the same machine. My brain does not process emotion in the same way that my wife's does or my daughter's does, right? And so when I am presented with a situation where you didn't cry at Old Yeller, there must be something wrong with you. No, I don't.
Actually, there might be. That is pretty sad.
Yeah, or you didn't. Marley and Me, right? You didn't cry at Marley and Me. I saw a tweet about that today.
Oh, yeah, that was funny. I liked it.
But yeah, and so you must be a sociopath because you didn't cry at Marley and Me. And it's like, no, I lack the machinery that you have. I was also trying to explain this to another, I don't even know who the guy is, but he'd done an interview of Dr. Jordan Peterson. And he was saying, why is it that Jordan Peterson characterizes chaos as the feminine? And I'm like, well, Jordan Peterson's going to stick to his guns when it comes to woo-woo magical thinking and mysticism and stuff. And he's, maps of meaning. And he's going to be dedicated to metaphorical truths. I try to step in here and say, because somebody asked me to opine on this thread, I step in and I go, it's because women process emotion differently than men do. It's instinct, emotion, and reason for men. For men, it's instinct, reason, and then emotion. If we haven't learned something else by that time, right? And that's probably the chaotic side of things is an emotional response. Chaos is emotional. Law is reasonable, right? It's something that you're trying to put some sort of order to the chaos. And so when you have those two elements that are working together, yes, you're going to characterize chaos as feminine, and you're going to characterize masculinity as law and order. And if you're going to make mythological reference, if you want to go back to old order thinking, that's really what it comes down to. But why
moon is made out of cheese? Just get to the gym.
But then I'm trying to defend Jordan Peterson's investment in being emotional, and being like in leading with emotion. And the reason for that is because we're in a gynocentric social order. That's what we've been taught. That's what we're supposed to think. We're supposed to think that there's something wrong with men because we don't process emotion like women do. That's her frustration right here.
And then when they do, she gets mad about it.
Yeah.
It's literally, I don't want to put on the gloves. Why are my hands so cold?
Yeah. It's not critical analysis. It's not a teaching. It's not even social construction. It's not a learning thing. It's we don't process emotion as women do. And we're punished when we don't.
Yeah. And I am so glad too at the beginning of the video where you said you don't want to just do red meat and talk about women. And that's why there was that part in there where I talk about what's the takeaway from you. Because if this was just a breakdown of her and that's all we discussed, we're essentially caught in the girl's frame. We're emoting through her and all this shit, right? But this is the benefit that guys like you or me have is, okay, so what do you do with this? And in this case, it was like, don't lie to women. Because right now the world's like, they all got their back and they may try to weaponize it against you. So just don't lie. Not because lying is morally wrong. It's because it's just not effective.
Impractical.
Yeah, it's impractical. Yes. So in this case, yeah, she believes that story. She thinks that. It just walk around as if that's a possibility. You're not lying to her at all. So worst case scenario, you have a bad date, but you at least show up to work on Monday without getting a Me Too accusation or some nonsense like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping when guys see this stuff and they hear your amazing breakdowns or my, less than amazing breakdowns, they start to focus on frame. Like what's the iron rule number 1, right? Frame is everything. You're either in yours or somebody else's. So as they watch these breakdowns, they think, okay, so now that I know that, what do I do with it? Or now that I see this, what do I do with that? What do I do with this? And if the audience can just take that from it, like what's in it for me, I think we've done far more good. And obviously I'm not shitting on Fresh and Fit there, but they're probably going to get a lot more value from that than to look at, Fresh saying women ain't shit and them just going, yeah, teach that bitch who I'm projecting as my ex-wife.
Right. Well, and in Myron's defense, like he does try to stay on. I mean, he quotes my book all the time. He quotes other people too. I mean, he tries to stay on point. And like I said, and I told him this, and I've told Fresh this as well. It's like you'll reach a point of diminishing returns where you can apply reason as far as you can. That's one of the reasons why this girl doesn't get it. Like she thinks, these guys aren't taught to critically analyze people's feelings and stuff. Like, no, it's not a teaching thing. It's that it doesn't occur to us because we're guys and you're women, and we don't process that. We don't share the same existential experience. But the correct one in this society is to align ourselves and identify as best that we can towards women. Because if you find yourself as one of the 80% of guys who's not going to reproduce and is getting larger and larger every day that we keep hearing about, if that's the case, it seems practical, it seems logistical for you to align yourself with the correct way of thinking. Which is, I need to really get in touch with my feminine side. I really need to express my emotions. I really need to become more like a woman. That's what she's complaining about. Why can't guys be more like women? Because they're guys, that first and foremost. And if they were the way you want them to be, you wouldn't have anything to do with them. You wouldn't have anything to do with that guy.
And can we take a minute too? I love the part where as she's saying guys don't have the critical thinking skills and that spiel, you see her eyes move over because she's reading it off the website she was researching. Yes, exactly.
Reading it verbatim from what she was.
A whole bunch of ironic things in there. The putting on the makeup while talking about deceptive male strategies. I was just like, I love those little things, just little spice.
Don't worry, I'm going to give you some red meat here in just a sec. This is really good. A woman's belief of what is the truth or real works is a qubit state. Be more than one state at any quantum computing, right? It can be in one state at instantaneous. At any instant, changes when measured. That's interesting. I don't know if I've ever discussed this with you. When I know I have with
quantum physics, probably not.
Probably not. Yes, we've never talked. How does quantum physics go across? Look at the big brain on Ryan. No, I was going to say that's nothing to do with quantum physics. God damn it. No, I mean cognitive dissonance. For when, and I have talked about this with Pat Campbell on a few occasions where, because he tried to nail my ass to the wall for this one time. I go, women have no problem with cognitive dissonance. Here you have this woman right here who's just essentially from video to video to video. She doesn't even realize she's engaging in cognitive dissonance, but she is. And so what I've said in the past is that women have no trouble with cognitive dissonance, particularly if that cognitive dissonance, like the cognitive dissonance between two conflicting ideas, right? If both of those ideas eventually lead to optimizing hypergamy, no problem. No problem whatsoever. Well, how come you had sex with the hot alpha guy and you didn't make any rules for him and you just jumped his bones and you had a same night lay with him, but you'll make this guy jump through all these hoops and make him wait for 4 or 5 dates before he even gets sex, assuming he does, but you say he's the guy you want to spend the rest of your life with? Because both of those options, if they work out in an idealized way, they both lead to optimized hypergamy or one side of hypergamy being optimized. That's why there's what we were saying, solipsism and narcissism and everything else that goes along with this. That's why women don't have a problem with solipsism. They don't have a problem with war brides. They believe that the one that got away, the alpha widow, like I was saying two episodes ago, they believe that's their due. And there's no, like, you can go and you say, doesn't that sound kind of whack? And they'll laugh and they'll go, yeah, I never thought about it that way. And they'll laugh about it, but they won't change their mind. They won't go, oh, I'm going to start living right. Or I'm going to start, well, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter, because it doesn't have to make sense. It just has to make emotional sense. It just has to feel good or feel bad, feel something, right?
And then to answer your question, why does the guy not have to go through hoops while the other guy does? And I reference this often, the Siege of Melos. Do you know this one? The Melian dialogues. It was essentially Athens and Sparta were at war. I'll do this one quick. Athens and Sparta were at war. And there was this small island of Melos that Athens wanted on their side. So they brought an army over. They're like, hey, join us on this war or else. And they're like, hey, we're going to stay neutral. And they make logical arguments. And Athens is like, look, I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm not going to pretend that we're the good guys here. And they just took them over. They're like, we're going to take you either willingly or unwillingly. And then the key message from that parable is the strong do as they can and the weak suffer as they must. So to answer your question, how does Chad get the free sex with no effort? It's because he's the strong and he can do what he wants. And Beta Billy, who couldn't get her any other way, has to put up with that stuff. So the weak suffer as they must.
He has to future fake. He has to rely on what he thinks is going to get him in there. That's another thing is when I keep seeing articles about this, and from people who, like, I would not call red pill guys, right? They will throw stuff out there. I think it was on Quillette or something like that. I was reading an art. Yeah,
you said not red pill guys. I assumed Quillette.
Yeah, Quillette. But they're talking about how data sample wise, like statistically speaking, women don't want to get with the lower 80% of guys, which is something that the red pill's been talking about forever. It's like the 80-20 rule. It's a Pareto principle. I've written all kinds of stuff about this for forever, and everybody thinks it's some new revelation, and it's really not. And then so people, I just answered this the other day, like somebody had thrown this out there one more time, and I said, no, the real truth is not. It's not like they always say this. Well, 80% of women want to get with 20% of the guys. Like, no, that's not how it works. 100% of women want to get with the top 20% of guys, and believe that it's their due that they get with those guys. Now, the real truth is that 80% of guys can't be in the top 20%, obviously, and they have to suffer as they must, right? They have to find end arounds to, in some way, make themselves more valuable, or in some way either improve themselves so that they look as good and act as good and have the same kind of, they're the quality wise, pushes them into the 20%.
Yeah, or fake signals like a mother. Or
they got to be sneaky fuckers. They got to find some end run around, the hypergamous filter. They've got to find, and has historically, at least in my opinion, and this is me spitballing here, in my opinion, that's what's driven innovation, is guys trying to figure out some way to become more valuable, to make more money. When we see like Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates and guys are, if they can't make it work, what chance do you have? Yeah, well, because they're like, they're autistic Asperger syndrome guys who made good, because that's how they did their end run from being in that lower 80%.
I'll do you one better. Name me one rock band in the past 40 years that didn't start with a bunch of nerds that couldn't get girls, so they started a band.
Right.
Name one band that didn't start that way.
I know, that's the Lemmy from Motorhead paradox, right?
Yeah. I remember Metallica even was saying that in the beginning. It's like, girls didn't want us. We were a bunch of nerds. So we just made a band. Marilyn Manson said that same thing. I'm pretty sure the Smashing Pumpkins were all in the same way too.
I remember there was an interview, and I think it was with Terry Gross from NPR, and it was Gene Simmons and Terry Gross. I wrote an article about it when the second.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one.
It was, I think I titled it Terry Loves Gene, or Gene Loves Terry, or something like that. And it was fascinating because here you have this very she's got very short hair. She's probably a lesbian. I don't know. But like, she's very, I'm this, empowered woman of NPR, and I'm going to interview this son of a bitch from this guy who paints his face up as the demon from Kiss, right? And so she cannot match him for like his logic, his dude logic versus chick logic, right? And so it's this back and forth between the two of them, and it's like at the end of it, it's like, you know, you'd look pretty good. He's like, you'd look pretty good in a skirt, and you grow your hair out, you'd be all right, you know, like he's throwing this.
Why don't you smile more, baby?
But part of that, but here's the great thing is, it's sort of more to your point, is he was talking about this one point where he's like, and this was I think this was in the 90s, right? And he says the reason why guys get into rock bands is not to save Tibet. It's not to save the world. It's not to like, you know, rage against the machine. It's not. That's not why guys get into bands. They get into bands not because of the guitar that's hanging between their legs, it's because of the other thing that's hanging between their legs. And of course everybody jumps all up his ass, right? You know, because this is like the 90s or whatever. I don't know if Kurt Cobain was still alive at the time, but like everybody's like, well, you know, we do it for the music, we do it for this, we do it for that. It's like, no,
right. That's why Kurt started a shotgun. It was because of the music and not his crazy ass girl.
Eventually you might have started caring about Tibet. But when you put the guitar on, you want to learn guitar, it wasn't because you wanted to go help Tibetan monks.
See, that's funny. You got to ask, were they mad at him because he was wrong, or were they mad at him because he was right?
Revealing the game. Yeah. Pointing it out. Yeah, exactly. This is off topic, but that's actually a little bit. Thoughts on if hormonal contraceptives creating a near perpetual luteal phase, making future faking a high success rate strategy in getting laid. That's not
high success rate. I don't know, man. There's a lot of guys buying pickup courses for me to think that's true.
Well, and then all you got to do is look at the 2018, 2019 GSS study showing that guys aren't getting laid.
Nope. I think it's the exact opposite of what you suggested.
Like the ladies are certainly getting laid. So someone's getting laid, but
like how many guys do you need to keep a female population fully sexed? 1 out of like 14, maybe? Like 14 to 1. That's a new girl every 2 weeks. I can see the ultra chads kind of getting a new girl every day kind of thing.
And that's an ugly truth. Yeah, I'm sorry to say that's a genetic evolutionary truth. Sorry, but you know, if you want to change that, but if you can't
beat them, join them. That's the only change you're going to do.
I have answered this in the past because a lot of guys will say, well, it's hormonal birth control is messing girls up. And yeah, it is. Depending on, but you have to remember that it's hormonal birth control is not one size fits all. There's different forms of hormonal birth control. That's
non-hormonal IUDs is a good example.
Yeah. Well, there's even hormonal birth control differs because there's different, like progesterone, and there's another one, and I can't remember that off the top of them, but it messes with the luteinizing hormone rather than estrogen.
Oh, so it doesn't just make you pretend you're pregnant or whatever?
No, there's different types of hormonal birth control. So that's one thing. So have there been longitudinal studies over whether or not the girl gets more horny for, like, you know, Chad in the foam cannon party if she's on this one or this one? No, that hasn't been done. But as far as ovulatory shift is concerned, when it comes to hormonal birth control, it doesn't change the dynamic. Women are still interested in the hot guy, right? When it's that time, because they're still faking, you know, they're in control of the menstrual cycle at that time. And yes, it is effectively, if women only like stayed on the pill all the time and they didn't take like the placebo pill, you know, like they didn't actually cycle, then you might have a case right there. But even still, from what I've read from Marty Hazelton and from like in hormonal, it's not so much about like perpetually keeping you in the luteal phase. It is depressing the levels of hormone that still remain in the same cycle. It's just that they're reduced, they're pushed down. So
so the bar for alpha is much lower than it used to be. So maybe that's a good thing.
So it might be, yeah. So you might have a case there. It doesn't actually change ovulatory shift. It depresses it, or it lowers the intensity of it, I guess, as far as my understanding is concerned.
There you go, boys. How much more of like a gimme do you want on that one? It's like, there's your cheat code.
I give and I give and I give. Well, you know, that's one of those things. It's like I'm not an endocrinologist, all right. I'm not a neuro. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not an evolutionary psychologist. I'm not a neuroscientist.
You're
I'm not
a tinkerer.
an endocrinologist. I know a lot about a lot, and I connect dots, and I hope that other people will help me connect dots too. That's the red pill. It's like there's so many subfields of the red pill. I can't master all of them all at the same time. I can only point you in the right direction.
Well, yeah, it's just like your tinkerer phase, the novelty phase of the scientific method. There wasn't research papers in 1796. It was guys like, let me just take a couple dumps, weigh them, and see if that changes my weight on a big scale I hang on. It's just experimenting. That's all it is. What do they? I say like low rigor, high replication.
Thank you, guys. Do men have a right to know or break up after one finds out if a girl has had OnlyFans porn experience before the relations?
A right, huh? Are you asking like what should you have? Because right now, I'll tell you right now, they're under no obligation, nor do they want to. So I would say no. If you're asking if that's the right thing to do, I'd also suggest who cares? Nobody gives a shit about men. So yeah.
That's a judgment call. Honestly, whenever you say right or wrong, like, is it right for is it red pill to do it? Was this blue pill or red pill? When people ask me for comparisons of that, I think, oh, is this right or is this wrong? I got people who tell me like, you shouldn't hang out with Sterling Cooper because he's a male porn star. I'm like, okay, well, let's take the morality side of this and let's sideline that for a minute. Is what he's saying have any value? Can you use it? Right? It's like 48 laws of power. Are you going to use every single 48 law of power? No, I would never use those. You know, that some of those are evil. Some of those benefit me perfectly, but other ones are evil. Okay, well, take what you can learn and then move on and according to whatever your framework is.
And that's chick thinking anyway. We've talked about this a ton. It's not my truth, it's the truth. And you don't really care about the source of truth. Like being moral or not moral is not part of the equation. Is this more correct? And by more correct, I mean, can I make better predictions about the world by knowing it? If what he tells you is spot on, and usually it is, and that's good enough. It's that female mentality of my truth that says, who's the most moral person in this situation that we all agree to as a group? And then that person gets to define truth. And that's what these people are doing. And that's why, again, it's men raised as defective women. And you can tell the first sign of it is where they want to dismiss somebody who's saying something that's arguably correct, or at least honestly trying to say something arguably correct because of some personal moral failing. And again, it's just, that's why you can't red pill your friends, because you're not actually giving them information to fix something. You have to rewire broken female wiring in their head to start thinking about these things the way a guy would. And you can't do that. They have to do it themselves.
You need to read my freaking fourth book, man. I got into that one.
How selfish. I've read 3 of your books and you're throwing a fourth at me to do more.
Gotta read that one. I know. Well, and the reason I say that is because I built upon, like, and I got permission to do this. I built upon what Whisper was talking about when it comes between like belief versus empiricism. And that's really when I see a question like that, or when people say, oh, you shouldn't listen to Sterling Cooper because he's an immoral guy, right? Well, again, it's happiness versus being right. And is it belief versus empiricism, right? So it's like you don't speak the same language. If you're framing and even this girl does this, like you're framing it in terms of like moralistic terms, well, then you're making a judgment call. That's a different conversation and a different debate than is this what he's saying factual and true and empirically, provable, or is it not? That's the difference between those two conversations. And then when you take the believer versus the empiricist, they don't speak the same language, because one thinks you're having one conversation and the other thinks you're having another conversation, and the goals of those debates are different according to who's having that conversation. And
on top of that, they don't even believe that moralistic framework anyway. It's only conveniently true to achieve a perfect end.
Right.
That's the part that's worse. Like they've picked a god that they don't even care about. He's just a fair weather friend.
Can I fit it into my ideological framework? Can I take this, what's true of this, and fit it into my ideological framework? And
that's why yesterday Jordan Peterson was Dad 2.0, and today Jordan Peterson is the pill-popping evil demon that led us astray. Because morally, he's not convenient right now.
Yeah,
I don't know what is. I guess Milo now with his pray away the gay shit.
Oh my God! Oh, I'm glad we're getting towards the end of the show here. Oh man, I could tell. Did you see the video? Did you see that video?
I saw the first 15 seconds and I just shook my head. I couldn't do it. I tried.
He's done 2 videos, and full disclosure here, I'm really good, have been in the past anyways, really good friends with Milo for a long time. I've known him and I bounced ideas off of him before he was Milo, right? But when he was still like a writer for Breitbart, back in 2009, 2010. And then, a lot of the things that he was talking about when he would do his speeches and stuff when it came to feminism, those from conversations that I had with him at that time. And, that developed into whatever. And then, of course, he became the provocateur around when Trump decided he wanted to become president in 2015. And then Milo became Milo, and that I didn't hear from him for a while. And, keep a little bit of correspondence now and then. But I was going to. I'm trying to get him. I still think I can. I wanted to get him on Fresh and Fit when I'm there next week.
Like on brand or on Milo?
No, I don't know. That's just it. I don't know what Milo is now. So I was watching those videos and I'm like, Milo. What's funny is like in 2015, Roosh really wanted to be Milo. He really wanted to be the provocateur. He wanted to be the guy who's all about free speech, and he did his world tour and his neo-masculinity thing. And
I still love that thing.
And then Milo, of course, was homosexual, and he was like, very flamboyant and everything. And in 2015, Roosh really wanted to be Milo, and now in 2021, Milo wants to be Roosh. It's like a prodigal son. I'm not, now I'm Christian and I'm actually hetero. I'm super straight.
Yeah, it's a 6-year-old soccer game. They're just swarming the ball wherever it happens to be moving at the time. It's whatever. I guess you got to chase that clout before the clout chases you, right?
Entertainment is tantamount.
I think there's a benefit to guys that are like Gen Xers. I think you're going to be the best in the social media climate right now, or like the older millennials like me and you, because we were raised without internet. So we have a strong identity that was created before all this crap. And so I think we're less susceptible in general to falling for this, like letting it drive our identities, Although I guess Roosh is like, Roosh is like my age. So I'm at the cusp of like, maybe I'm going to go nuts too.
Yeah. Hey, apparently we've come into quantum thottery. This is the qubit of the red pill.
Yeah, it's only real if it's observed.
Well, we were talking.
Do you have a scientific study to show that?
Yes,
I'm sure we do.
Yes, I am an astrophysicist. So
yeah.
What did you say? Tony Pajama says, stupid question, but why are more and more guys becoming okay with calling themselves simps?
Because they think it'll get them laid.
Yeah. It's a pity fuck is what it is. It's take pity on me and turn me into something different. Damn,
Same
man.
as guys who want to cry in front of girls or any number of stupid things.
Yeah.
Female allies.
Black Sheep, thank you for that. There you go. I have no idea.
I got to get a soundboard, man. That's thing's already paid for itself in this podcast alone. I've got 8 pads per bank here, and I really need to get a stream deck because it's just like I want to be able to use more, I think, but maybe people get annoyed with that. I don't know. People get annoyed with it. I used to think so, but I mean, it seems to be going well. The point that keep asking for more of them. Get the air horn going like the Trump one, or
let me keep going on a little bit with this some more. So you got into the narcissist thing.
Narcissus and Echo, yeah. Who has it harder? It's a weird case here of projection is perception. Now, I would talk about the why and the how, but frankly, it's just not worth it. This is literally somebody being lied to their entire lives. Every man wants to smash. Every woman wants cheap, shallow camaraderie. There's no incentive for a young woman to get honest looks at the world around them because nobody wants to tell them the truth. Until the epiphany phase. Now, if you're not familiar with this, it's a term coined by author Rollo Tomassi. Shameless plug. This is the point of transition at which women realize their decaying capacity to hypergamously compete with women in their sexual primes, and at the point that men are beginning to realize their own increasing value potential. Now, take 10 years of dating experience, the aforementioned lack of introspection, the complete denial of reality by friends and family and potential lovers. Add to that plenty of deceptive dating practices from blue-pilled sexual strategies and a hind-brained acknowledgement that youth and beauty are depreciating assets. You generally get the female version of getting zeroed out. Now again, if you don't know that term, being zeroed out was again coined by Rollo Tomassi. Men having most of a lifetime of status, financial equity, reputation, professional and educational growth, emotional investment, and other metrics of a man's quality of life equity being erased. He describes it like this, but in psychological terms, it's where delusion meets reality. It's where the brain experiences a trauma and is forced to change its current collection of mental models. Models of the world in order to adapt. It's a sort of trauma. Like for a man, it's where he bases his life on being a good provider and a strong father and a great husband who's the pillar of his community, and watching a wife who's bored with this life removing all of it. He thought he was the patriarch, but it was at the whims of a woman. Many guys take a permanent out over it. It's very sad. And for a woman, this is her equivalent. The world isn't always nice. The men who say realistic things are not just big meanie heads. Men and women lie. And the main reason everybody treated you so well is because of your looks. Oh, and you only get to figure this out once it's too late to capitalize on the knowledge.
I wanted to let me stop real quick right there, because I really like that part where we were talking about getting zeroed out, because when I've talked about getting zeroed out in the past, it's always been in terms of men, right? It's always been in terms of guys, because I
kind of didn't want to equate them either, because I hate
yeah.
But anyways, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. In the article Zeroed Out, actually, I mentioned this is like guys are going to as part of your struggle, right? As part of the burden of performance, you're going to fail, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes you're going to succeed and you're going to build an empire for yourself, and that empire is going to crumble through fault of your own, through no fault of your own, through whatever, but just a misunderstanding, whatever. Several times during your life as guys, because that's guys must become, and women just are, that zeroing out is something that you have to deal with over and over and over again. And you you're faced with two choices. You can rebuild yourself and remake yourself, or you can end yourself. Those are usually what happen. And that you want to know why men kill themselves at 3.5 to 5 times the rate as women. That's why, because sometimes killing yourself is a better option than having to rebuild from scratch again when you're 45, 50, 60 years old. I understand. It's tragic, and I don't want you to do that. I've dedicated and Positive Masculinity, at least the last half of that book is pretty much dedicated to helping you prevent that. But
even my favorite article here is The Safety Net. Perfect description of that dynamic.
Yeah. People creating, dates for them to off themselves and then canceling as a result of that. But my point in Zeroed Out is, why do guys come to that realization in the first place? Why does it seem like it's better to just simply like hit the undo button or pull the plug, instead of actually saying, you know what? Okay, well, I'm at 0. I got to rebuild. The older you get, maybe it's a little bit more difficult than when you get zeroed out at 25. It's different than like 65. So there's a big difference between that and your investment and like sunk cost and everything else that goes along with that. But then it's like, well, what about women, right? Do women get zeroed out? And the answer is, yeah, they can be. In fact, a lot of them get zeroed out, just as you were saying a minute ago here, is they get to that point. Like I did the video, not the most recent one, but I think it was actually it was the one back on Wednesday. The girl who's 34, she's 33, she's about to turn 34, and she's like, I don't know what's left for me. I don't know what to do. And she's not zeroed out on a financial sense, because she's got a job, she can pay her bills. She, that side of hypergamy is pretty much met for her. But what she's agonizing over is, now that she's 34 years old, she's hit the wall mentally for sure, maybe physically too.
She ain't a spring chicken. Leave it at that.
34. She's not able to compete with her 24-year-old self. So there's that realization, and that realization is a form of being zeroed out, because the equity and the value that she had and the agency that she had, according to her peak sexual market value at that when she was 23 years old, is not what it is when she's 33 years old. And that is definitely a form of zeroing out. Mm-hmm. The difference is that we have social conventions that in some way at least buffer that, or they continue to convince women that they're not actually zeroed out, and you can have anything, and you just got to keep going, girl. And if you're getting
buying my merch,
it's not your fault. It's infantile men's fault that you're being zeroed out right now.
Dude, it's monetized. That's the thing. Most of these people saying you go girl are like, by the way, here, go girl with this, $9.99, and they'll buy it up too. That's why. What is it? MasterCard has their annual report. Women are a $14 trillion worldwide industry, consumer purchasing, when guys are like 4. Mm-hmm. Like, it's orders of magnitude different. Women have all the spending power. It's not even that they earn all the money. They have all the spending power.
Control over the spending.
And of course, financially, it makes perfect sense. What are the best things to use to market from a purchasing perspective? Fear and insecurity.
Yeah.
So, hey, you need to look younger. They know that. That's why they buy makeup. You're old. Here's some, and you're going to love this reference. Here's some calorie light vodka. It's fat free. It's gluten free.
I remember that. I remember selling those. I remember having to do advertising for like, there was a lot, and it wasn't it wasn't in my portfolio, but there was Skinny Girl martinis or skinny girl like vodka. That's how they market it. It wasn't any.
Oh, I showed you one of those. Yeah, it was right in our liquor store. Giant wall posters, like calorie free, and you're like, that's good.
Yeah, it was. This was back in the late 2000s, I believe. I want to say 2008, 2009. There was a brand. It might still be around. It was called Skinny Girl, like cocktails or something. They were pre-made cocktails, and they had like this, nice little illustration of a girl who was like thin and everything. And you can't actually say, drink this, this alcohol, and you will stay skinny, because that's a health claim. They can never.
Plausible deniability. You have to infer it.
But we can name the product Skinny Girl, and we can put a picture of a skinny girl on there.
Yeah, I'm not saying you'll get skinny, but look at all these skinny people drinking this. Just do the math.
Yeah, and that was back when like Sex and the City was a big deal, and like flavored martinis were a big deal. So
I have a feeling it's like I finally had a White Claw, and I didn't realize how horrible they taste. For a club soda vodka?
I never will have a White Claw.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're not a drinker. Well, here's the thing. I think they purposefully taste. I think they taste bad on purpose, because then it's easier for a girl to picture it's healthy because it doesn't taste sweet.
Mm-hmm. It's like seltzer, right? Isn't it a hard seltzer?
Yeah, it's just seltzer and flavored vodka, but there's something they add to it that makes it taste worse, because I've had vodka and seltzer with flavor before, and it doesn't taste like this. I think it has to be there. Like, you remember how Betty Crocker, they used to say for their cake recipes, add 1 egg, and it was that extra like step on there that made girls think they weren't cheating and they were really cooking. I think it's this. As long as it tastes bad, then they're like, oh, it has to be good for me. It has to be fat free because it tastes horrible.
Make it taste just a little bland, so they go, must be good for me.
Yeah,
it's true.
Lying to somebody, but not lying to them. Plausible deniability. Well, you're not going to be skinny. That's good.
It's the same thing. But I like what you're saying before. Is that's really what advertising is about, right? It is create fear, stoke fear and sell security. Whether that's political or ideological or your personal, whatever it is, that's the definition of profiteering, right? Is you create the problem that you only have the solution for. If that's fear, especially when it's like base root emotion, like brainstem, lizard brain emotions that you can appeal to, and you say, don't worry about it. I got you. I got you, fam. You're going to buy this product, and that fear will go away that I stoked in you.
And I bet you everybody in this audience thinks that wouldn't work on me. I'm too smart. Well, let me just say this then. You got to be careful with women. They're going to divorce rape you, so you got to go your own way. Yeah. And how many guys buy into that? Yeah. Something to think about.
I'll ruin it for you right now. It's that meme that says, if Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates can't make it work, what chance do I have? That's
Big Tau trademark.
That's the fear. Yes. And
dude, I should almost as a joke meme it, just like Van Gogh vodka, but putting Big Tau on it.
Yeah.
Big Tau vodka. She can't leave you and take half your shit.
I know. Yeah, I tell you what's funny is like I've actually been thinking about producing another line, like doing my own proprietary line. It wouldn't be vodka though. It probably would be like a bourbon or something like that.
Yeah, it's macho, truck nuts. Leather smelling bourbon.
It's easier to find a distillery for bourbon than it is for like other things. So
easier than vodka. I was gonna say.
Yes, actually, I know. I thought the same thing too. But like, there are I won't say generics, but you know how like there's like Black Label or Black Rifle coffee.
Yeah.
Or there's like even Devil Mountain coffee, which I really really like. It's like one of those like drop shipping kind of things. Like they're not actually making the coffee; they're importing it from somewhere else.
Just like Bullet Bourbon. We have it up here, and they just buy from the Four Roses distillery. When I learned that, I just buy Four Roses vodka or bourbon, which is like half the price. Tastes the same because it's the same thing.
Yeah, you know where I found that at? Like obviously I know about drop shipping. I know all that kind of stuff. That's create a brand, right? I'm good at that. I create brands. I've actually been thinking about doing that, but I don't want to do it for Rollo Tomassi because I'm trying to help, right? I'm not like, oh, here, buy my t-shirt.
Well, do it. You can have like a beanie.
I know
as like the offer with it.
Merch, and so I'm like, I might still do merch, but like I bought this, like I got this like online, like this little thing from the Viking store or whatever, and it's like immediately, it's like all in my Instagram. There's like 1 million of these guys sell. It's like that's their brand. It's like this Viking, that Viking, this, and it's like the same stuff. It's just their brand of it. Yep. Same thing with booze. Same thing with coffee.
Same thing with sex.
Yeah. Same thing with sex.
Every dick is exactly the same, so you got to brand yourself. That's what the future faker's doing. He's trying to brand himself.
That's interesting. I was going to say, I brought this up before, and I told this, I think I brought this up on Fresh and Fit at one point, was that dating is now brand management.
Yeah.
everything that you do on like your Instagram, whatever else, you're selling yourself. And a 12-year-old girl on Instagram is still branding herself. She's the brand of her. She's not an influencer making money, but like she's at least learning the fundamentals of it. And that's really how we represent ourselves online as brands.
Well, heck, beta bucks is a commodity at this point. Guys bringing home the bacon isn't valuable. Girls, bacon's $3. Girls have their own job. It's a complete commodity. So the only thing you have to separate yourself from the 100,000 other dicks that are just the same as you is luxury branding.
Yep. You're selling the same coffee.
Yeah.
It's just you put your brand on it.
You could be a top tier man and girls will pay 10 times the amount to be with you, but you can be the brand of what everybody wants and she'll pay 100 times for it. That's why that's why everybody's like, Chad is not looks maxing, because the drug dealer across the street probably just as chatty as like the bodybuilding type, more so. Yeah, it's not.
You said that later on in this video here too. It's like, but like this is why game is important, right?
Yeah.
It's the presentation, yes, very important, but it's also understanding game and understanding red pill dynamics and being able to work within that framework so that you can master the game. Because
you like my juxtaposition too, where it's always the rich guys and the broke guys saying their money only matters.
Yes. What did you say here, Michael? He says, being red pill aware in a group of friends who are not is hard. How do you deal with this?
Are you talking sexual strategy with a bunch of dudes?
Well, exactly. Well, I think what happens is like a lot of guys, and I get this a lot. Guys will say, "Well, all my friends are all blue pill, and they come down on me, or they berate me for being a misogynist, patriarchal prick because my opinions aren't what their opinions are." And my response is always, "Who cares?"
Yeah, don't care. Got laid.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, you're going home with the hot. I think it was the last time I heard about this was this guy who was like in his 30s and he was dating this girl who was like 24, 25. And all of his friends are married, and he was bringing his young chippy to like the social gatherings that have his friends who are already married, and their wives like, "Don't invite that guy over here. He's a son of a bitch. He's a misogynist."
Giving my man ideas.
Don't give our men folk ideas. What's this rational male you're reading? Yeah,
it's just like rhinos circling the herd, right?
Yeah, it's funny is like I how to deal with this. Often enough, it'll deal with itself. It'll happen organically. They'll ostracize you, and you'll wonder what happened. I can't talk to my friend anymore. You probably because not because he's a dick or something. It's because he's being sort of filtered and buffered out from your life.
Well, just by you being red pilled, I'm assuming successful and not just rambling about what you read in Rational Mail. Yeah. It's kind of rubbing their noses in a way just by being there.
Yeah. Tempest says, ask a woman if she thinks she's good at giving PJs, and they'll all say yes, because what guy is telling her she could do better. Yeah, exactly.
Jeez, women lie to them who our whole lives.
Yeah, I'm the best. All my ex-boyfriends said I was good. What was it? This was I have an essay. It was called The Slut Paradox, and I started it out with this old Andrew Dice Clay bit, right? And it's just fun. I don't think I've ever put this on an episode, but there, and the bit goes like this: like he's up there and he's looking, because Andrew Dice Clay messes with people in the audience all the time. He sees this guy sitting with this hot piece of ass girlfriend or whatever, and he goes, "Hey, is that your girlfriend?" And he's like, the guy's like, "Yeah," and he says, "Well, she's pretty hot," and the guy's like, "Yeah." He's she give a good Hummer, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah," like that. He's like, "How long you been dating?" Whatever. He's asking a question. He says, "Does she give a good blowjob?" "Yeah." And so he's like enthusiastically, nodding his head, and he goes, "I suppose the next question is, how do you think she got that way?" And it's like, of course, that leads into like, putting the flag on the moon kind of conversation and everything else. But it's true. It's like, who's going to say that she's, you're not giving a good Hummer, right? Who's going to, who's going to argue with that?
It's that catch-22. Are you admitting she's a slut or that she's bad in bed? Can't win either way.
Yeah. What's this one? Do you recommend spinning plates and pump and dump spinning plates as a young beta guy with low money? Absolutely. I was that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, spinning plates is dating non-exclusively. All right. I think a lot of guys misinterpret this, especially the TradCon guys. Like whenever they read my plate theory series in my first book and then on my blog. They seem to think that I'm advocating, be a walking hard on and bang anything with two legs. Like that's because every girl that you nail, that's a notch on, that makes you that much better a guy. Like they think that's the point of plate theory, and it's not. It's dating non-exclusively.
Yeah, you're building your own personal data set.
Yeah, you want to know how to avoid one-itis. You want to know how to like come to terms with the bullshit of the soulmate myth. Date non-exclusive. You want to call it spinning plates, okay, whatever, but like date non-exclusively. Have lots of girlfriends, experience women, and decide for yourself through that experience what you like and what you don't like. It's very similar to what women do. I don't see why we don't call it spinning plates for women.
I think guys get too caught up on the jargon because it exists. It's shorthand. We say spinning plates, so everybody who's red pilled knows exactly what we're talking about. You're not supposed to use that language everywhere. Like you can describe it as dating non-monogamously, getting a data set, whatever. And I think guys keep thinking that you can't just describe it in plain language. And I think until a guy does, he doesn't really understand the term anyway. But that's only because you couldn't. How long did it take you to describe spinning plates? 5 minutes? 4 minutes? Every time you wanted to talk about spinning plates, you're not going to go through that 4-minute description. No. So you just say spinning plates. 2 words, it's done. That's all it is. Just shorthand. Don't take it too literally, guys.
Yeah.
It's your
well, it's that 80% of guys who want to identify with the feminine. And when you say spinning plates, it sounds like you are trying to be a player, right? It sounds like, and that's where really like even the term game, people say, well, you're playing games. It's manipulative, blah, blah, blah. You and I have had this conversation with a million other dudes who've said, well, isn't it manipulative? Isn't seduction like, trying to trick girls into bed with you? And of course it comes down to what are you going to say? Finish that sentence, Ryan.
Well, I stand alone. Everybody always starts apologizing. It's not manipulative. I'm like, no, it's manipulation. But manipulation doesn't mean bad. Manipulation just means influencing. A baby crying is manipulation. A dog barking. There's actually studies out there that show a girl screaming or a baby crying gets the guy's adrenal gland glowing. It actually kicks our fight or flight response. That's flat out manipulation. Now, we don't have that kind of power. Like if a guy screams, girls don't start getting wet, but we do have that power. And do it. But here's the point. You know the saying, leave them better than you found them? There's nothing wrong with manipulating a person, especially you're not ruining girls. You sleep with a girl, your dick isn't good enough to damage a girl. It's just not. She'll look past 20, 30 dicks and then still settle down with the beta bucks guy. Not a single one of those dicks damage her. So there's nothing you can do that's going to break a normal, healthy girl. If a girl's already broken, she'll just be broken with one more notch. So don't worry about it too much. Just act within a moral framework that you can live with. Go do your thing. And yeah, manipulate because, dude, one night with me, and this is the attitude to have, one night with me is way more fun than one night with that dude fake futuring you. So you're welcome. You know? And I'm just surprised how few guys are unapologetic at being a man.
Exactly. And I think that one of the reasons they have a problem like coming to terms with that or even hearing you talk about it, like whenever we talk about game, is game real? Could game actually work? Blah, blah,
is wrestling real or was it fun?
Exactly. Have you ever bought a car off a used car lot? Were you an active participant in purchasing that car? Guess what? You got gamed to some degree, right? Like it's you. The end result wasn't you getting laid. It was you getting a car that you probably were interested in buying in the first place, right? You were influenced. Did the guy jerk you off? Did he give you a shitty deal? Did he sell you a lemon? Whatever. Maybe, maybe not. But you still participated in that. That's another thing. I was looking at the Robert Greene quote that I just put up a second ago. If you read Art of Seduction by Robert Greene, in the introduction, he says, any seduction requires 2 people. There has to be the person who wants to be seduced in the first place. Yeah. And then there's the seducer that's going to play that role. People who don't want to be seduced, people who don't want to be hypnotized won't be hypnotized. You have to be open to being hypnotized. You have to be open to being seduced. Yeah. There has to be some part about that woman who wants to be in that position. Otherwise, she won't be like, get away from me, you're a jerk, especially today, right?
Yeah, like here, the future faking guy, he never promised her, hey, would you love to drink boxed wine and have 8 cats at home? That wasn't the lie he was selling. What was the lie he was selling? Fucking 4 kids and a white picket fence. There's a reason that one works.
Future faking. Yeah. And why would that work? Why would that even be a manipulative tactic?
Yeah.
Because that woman wants to participate in that fantasy. And that's why women get pissed off, because they want that. They definitely, at some point, they're looking for security in a much longer term than they are when they're looking for alpha fucks, right? When we look at like the alpha fucks, beta bucks, kind of quandary there, women can only maximize the alpha seed side for so long, like optimize it anyways. I'm not saying that women can't be like 40 and still do it, but I'm just saying like not as well as when they are 23 years old. So if you look at like their women's window for opportunity to maximize their sexual market value and that agency that comes along with that, you're only talking a stretch of 10 years before she cycled out and other women come into the field and they're playing the game that she was playing 10 years ago. That's why they call the store Forever 21, not Forever 41. Okay, because 41-year-olds are not playing the same game as 21-year-olds. They would like to be, but they are not. But so you've got this, this window of opportunity, and I'm just around this off, between 18 and say 28 years old.
Yeah, don't focus on the numbers he means, just the general principle
just
here,
the
guys.
general principle here. Women's have a much shorter window or much briefer window in their overall lifetime. Like if they live to be like 90 years old, they have a much briefer window of opportunity to maximize that sexual agency than they do the need for long-term security. And so guys are here. Okay, so here's what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, women have the beta buck side is already taken care of. They make their own damn money and they're set for life and they're whatever, the beta buck side is taken care of. Okay. That's a secure, that is, and finances are definitely part of security, but there's also emotional security. This chick right here looks like she can pay her bills. The girl that I was looking at, this other girl in this other video right here, definitely looks like she's not starving, right? The fat girl, precious especially, but this blonde that I was showing last week, they can handle that side of it, but that's only one aspect. And you know how I know it's only one aspect? Because if it weren't, they wouldn't be on TikTok crying about the emotional side that they want long-term security for. There you go. And I didn't need a degree to figure that shit out.
My God, it's almost like the loneliness is seeping off of them.
Yeah. You have to remember that security, long-term security applies to a lot of different things for women. That's why they get upset that they can't find a guy who is, economically attractive. It's not so much the finances. It's I need to get with a guy who can take care of me, protect me, provide for me, parentally invest with me, that kind of stuff, the 3 Ps of the beta buck side of things. So it's not that those aspects aren't important. It's that they want them in an idealized, they believe that they are entitled to have all of those things in an idealized context.
Yep. And they may settle, but not until they have to.
Yeah.
That's why, what is it? Like the 35-year-olds, they'll pick whatever the first guy that comes along and like forget their birth control. And then, well, better make it work. I've had a friend who got catfished like that. Had a plate, 35. All of a sudden, something happened. She comes knocking on the door one day. Just so you know, I'm pregnant. And of course, she's 35. Of course, she's not going to go and deal with the problem. So he's 2 kids in now. Sitting there, not the happiest man on earth. I always keep him in mind, man. I guess there was any helping him. He just loves his kids too much.
I'm gonna wrap up here in just a second, but I'll kick myself in the dick if I don't put this down here. This was so good. I think this is my favorite part of the video.
It's like the story of Narcissus and Echo, where the oracle told the guy's parents he'll have a long life so long as he never knows himself, and so they hid Narcissus from his reflection his entire life. The story you know is that Narcissus was so beautiful that everybody wanted to be with him, but he rejected them all. Nope. Not good enough. One rejected lover was furious and begged Nemesis, the goddess of vengeance, for retribution. If Narcissus ever falls in love, don't let the love be returned. So Nemesis heard the prayer and caused Narcissus to fall in love with himself. He was led to a pool of water, and when he looked into it, he fell in love with what he saw. And what he saw wasn't real, so of course it couldn't love him back. But Narcissus sat patiently, forever, hoping that one day that beautiful person in the bottom of the pool was going to come out and love him. You should take note of the first easy lesson. If nobody ever seems right for you, and then one person who does seem right doesn't want you, then the problem isn't the person, the problem is you. In the same way that I've talked before in many videos about how men are being raised as defective women, in this case, a lot of women are being raised as defective men. And in this case, narcissism, the male mental disorder, is being imparted onto girls, and this is kind of the reaction that you're seeing from it. And for women, this is the equivalent. The men who say realistic things are not big meanie heads. Men are not always nice. Sometimes they lie because they want to sleep with you and they don't know how to turn you on any other way, and it's a frustrated Sisyphean task. I get it. And if you're wondering why this goofy misogynist is here empathizing with the women, that's not the point of this either. There are no good guys in this story. There's only people and their messy lives. Now, in this first part, I painted the picture of a poor woman, a sympathetic tragedy, lied to her whole life, missing the one thing she wanted in life, to be happy and in love. Treated horribly by a man who lied and promised the world, then left when it wasn't rewarded by a blowjob in an alleyway. But this next part, this is why the red-pilled man doesn't cry too much.
Right.
Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
Getting ready for a virtual date, so I only have to look good from here up. I ghosted this guy for about a month, so I'm not really sure what he sees in me. Men are like tumors. Sometimes they're benign. My psychiatrist did tell me to make a physical list of qualities I wanted in a man, and so I did that. And my friends read over it, and they were like, "You're just describing yourself." And I said, but I'm not rich.
So you see this very simple.
All right, so that was, I want to stop it right there because that's that pretty much sums up the narcissist thing. And I think that's freaking brilliant, by the way, which is like the narcissistic side of this whole thing. If we make, if we're concentrating on, you know, raising our boys to be defective girls or be men to become defective women, should it not then also follow that we're creating like we're masculinizing women all the time, which we see day in, day out on Chik Tok videos? That's it. There's your example right there. You know, Fresh and Fit, the girls that come on there, they repeat the same stuff. They use the same language. They make the same mistakes because we've masculinized women, and guys in the manosphere have been saying this forever. Women have overblown egos. Women are narcissistic. People ask me this all the time. What's the difference between narcissism and solipsism? Well, here's your narcissistic, an absolutely brilliant. I don't know where you got that quote from. The psych. What was the book?
The Last Psychiatrist. He's been a blog. He's like manosphere adjacent. Awesome quote. Bravo. I wish I would have got that one. But he's what we always want shrinks to do, and he's the only one who's done it so far.
Yeah, and then because most people, when they talk about narcissism, they think it's this self-absorbing love of self, and that's what they see all the time. And even the girl, she like was a living example of this right after, like those clips that you pulled from that one, perfect.
And those two videos were like a week apart, so like it's not like 6 months later.
I ghosted this guy. Men are like tumors, you know. And then of course her psychiatrist, you don't say, yeah. Your psychiatrist makes you make this list of like qualities you want in a guy, and it sounds like yourself. Absolutely stunningly perfect for that quote. And then I had no idea about this, is that the real part of the narcissist story is a curse, essentially causing the guy to fall in love with himself, because, you know, that jilted lover, a female jilted lover, says, I hope that if he's, you know, make it so that if he ever falls in love, that it's never requited. And then, of course, if you are narcissistically in love with yourself, it will never be requited, to the point where he dies, like he falls in the pool and drowns eventually.
Well, on top of that, his parents lied to him his whole life and didn't let him know who he was. And that kind of plays into like women have been lied to their whole lives because everybody wants to sleep with them or be friends.
Mm-hmm. And expecting that person to walk out of the pool and be that idealized lover too. And the reason why you get suicidal is because you believe it's your due. Because you hubristically believe that perfect person that is you should come up out of the water and be your perfect match.
And that's what narcissists did. Did he dive into the water and drown, or did he just die from old age?
He falls in. I believe he falls into the water and drowns. I mean, that's the mythological thing, but like the moral of the story, like the latent purpose of that story is what's the lesson that it's teaching? Mm-hmm. Is that it's never going to happen. You will end up literally being self-absorbed. You will absorb yourself and die as a result of that. What that death looks like, you know, it might not be actual death, but it's like you've got this woman who just can't get out of that negative feedback loop, because the perfect guy for her is her. The perfect man for her is herself, because she is that masculinized ideal. And that's another thing that gets me is a lot of guys will say this: women have unrealistic expectations. Well, like and on every Fresh and Fit, on every Kevin Samuels, on every show that is trying to ape that formula, it's the same thing. Women have unrealistic expectations. Kevin Samuels sets these girls straight. That's the whole marketing ploy, right? It's like, you're average at best. And these women have never had, they're narcissistic. They're staring at themselves in the pool, and Kevin Samuels comes over her in the pool and says, you're average at best. Oh my God. He falls into the pool. She dies.
Yeah. 3-piece suit at the pool in Vegas. What the hell, brother?
That would be a great, somebody draw that comic, because that would be brilliant. But it's like somebody steps over your shoulder and says, baby, you're average at best. And they fall in and they drown as a result of, like, narcissistically. And so when you're looking at this, the reason why it's so successful is because people think, people will say, well, women have these unrealistic expectations, and they do. But what they don't realize is that, and Royce wrote about this way back in the day, is that women's stated standards, like, this is what I'm looking for, crumble like a house of cards. I think that was even the title of the article he wrote.
Yeah, that is the one. I remember it.
Because he was using these examples of women that he knew who had these, like, dating profiles, or they, if you don't meet all the 436 bullet points on my checklist for my dating profile, swipe left or right or wherever the fuck you swipe, right? To get you swipe away, right? And if that's not you, then don't bother with me, right? Because I'm worth the best, and of course they're average at best. But the idea is that they have these unrealistic expectations of guys, when in fact they're not even looking for those guys. They're not looking for someone who's alike. And I said this before, because guys have done this. Beta game is based on identifying with the feminine. How much more alike can I be like this person, like this girl? How do I get in touch with my feminine side? How do I identify with the female? How do I express myself emotionally? How do I do all of the things that women say are very important to them in that, in a guy? And then I'll be successful. Then I'll be what they want me to be. When in fact, the very opposite is what women are looking for. They're looking for 50 Shades of Grey. They're looking for the hot guy in the foam cannon party. They're looking for the exact opposite of the guy that they state that they really want in the long term. And their standards tend to crumble like a house of cards, as Royce was saying, once they get into the reality of that situation.
Well, yeah, all three of you guys were writing at about the same time, too. There was Roosh with his House of Cards. Royce was the one, I think, who came up with the 427-point bullet list. Mm-hmm. And then you had your broken glass reference from that article. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys collabed. I think you guys all just kind of came to these conclusions separately. At the same time, yeah. Yeah, but that's funny. That's why I love about the red pill. It doesn't have a lot of rigor, but the replication, right? They call it convergent evidence. Like, right. Yeah, you guys are doing it fast and loose with the evidence, but it's all pointing in the same direction. It may not be exactly to the right point, but it's close enough. You can kind of get a good idea.
I thought that stuff. That was funny, because back in the day, like, I would write an article, and it would there'd be, like, I'd get quoted by Royce, and he put it in one of his articles, and then it would be about something that's kind of like peripherally related to what I was talking about, and that will give me another idea, and I would build upon that, and then Roosh might pick up something when Roosh was still writing, right? And he would build upon that, and then we would sort of just coincide at the same time.
Swap notes like men.
Yeah, but it's not like we all got together and said, hey, okay, here's what we're going to talk about this week. We just sort of just did it organically, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what this place has always been. That's what the red pill is. If you describe it with nothing else, it's guys swapping notes. That's all it was. It's an aggregate. You guys all had notes. You brought a little bit extra to the table each time, and you built on each other, standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's why I like your analysis of narcissism here. Is there's more to the story than that, because when we masculinize women and we say, well, men have, and it's true statistically, men have narcissistic, quote unquote, narcissistic personality disorder above and beyond. Like, women tend to have BPD, men have NPD, right? Now, not to say that women don't, because I think Meghan Markle probably suffers from both, but we tend to think of narcissism as a male thing. And now you see that masculinized ideals that are being bred into and embedded into a generation of women who are taught to be defective men. Yep. Instead of defective women. That's brilliant, because I didn't really even thought about that until just now.
That's because I caught it early on, because I was thinking, you know how girls are always like, anything a man can do, we can do? Mm-hmm. But then I think, what did they do? Well, they turned into drunken frat boys. They literally picked the worst male archetype you could pick. Yeah. The drunken guy in a toga banging broads on the weekend. And that's like
So
I can do that.
Yeah, Sandbergian hypergamy, right? Like get with the bad boys and bang as many people as you can until you can cash out of the casino before the lights come on at the club, right? And get with the guy who's the beta in waiting and live happily, like stick the landing. That's what Dalrock used to call it. You'd stick the landing. You could go and screw around while you're in your, between 18 and 28, but 29, you better stick the landing.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of women are not sticking the landing. Now, MGTOWs and black pills, want to say, well, it's because we're walking away from it. No, they just don't know any better, right? If that was the case, you wouldn't see these girls on TikTok. You wouldn't see these girls. You wouldn't see
they'd keep their mouth shut.
Yeah.
I don't dare tell people I'm a slut. As far as they know, I'm in a sun-dressed all goddamn day.
I don't know if it was you or somebody wrote something about this and talking about like how, women are upset with MGTOW because they're walking away and they're ruining their game. It's like, no, they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care about you.
That's Michael's story.
Own way. Yeah. The vast majority of women do not care that you are going your own way.
Yeah, that one was sort of stolen, sort of from Dalrock. The Red Pills had it on their sidebar. Yeah. Well, it wasn't from Dalrock. It was from his comments. And it was this one guy who's literally said that. He was the 20-year-old. He was going to be perfect. And by 30, they were going to settle down. And a bunch of chicks he went to college with were just partying, getting drunk, having sex. And he started doing the Kevin Samuels thing. He chastised them. Don't you realize men won't want you? The girls basically laughed in his face, like, because he's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And she's like, not only am I going to have my cake and eat it, but it's coming with sprinkles.
Chocolate sprinkles on top. I remember that one.
Yeah, and that was the whole point. It's like, dudes, she is gonna, and you're saying, yeah, a lot of girls aren't capitalizing this, but a lot are. Like, it's successful for enough women that it keeps perpetuating. If no girl could waste her 20s and then cash out on her 30s, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But it works for a lot of women, enough women that everybody thinks it can happen for them too.
Mm-hmm. And people are going to, and I just want to throw this out there because there's going to be a caveat because people are going to say, well, not in my country, not in my society.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. Not yet.
Yeah. Remember when the Middle East was all about burqas and now they got chicks out there?
Somebody sent me a Chik Tok video of some girl like dancing in the, like, it looks like she's ready to go to the clubs and she's dancing in the middle of the street in like Turkey.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not one stone for a mile.
It's on its way, guys. But like when I look at that, it's like the female nature is what it is. I don't care where you're at, but like by order of degree or by the context that it's allowed to occur in or it doesn't occur in, the nature of the beast doesn't change. So, but like they don't care. They don't care no one cares if you're MGTOW or black pill or anything. Oh, you're not teaching them a lesson.
Well, it's like, and they don't have dogs. If you had dogs, you know this. When you go to the dog park, what's the stupidest people you see that irritate you the most? And I guarantee you, it's the ones whose dog is misbehaving and they just start yelling at their dog to come here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because those are bad. And that is MGTOW because they think, I'm angry. The dog's misbehaving. He needs to feel bad and come here. And the dog doesn't care. And if anybody, and you have a dog, what do you do if your dog's misbehaving and you want him to recall?
Yeah, you have to train them to that. There takes a lot of training that goes before that.
Exactly. What you have to do is convince the dog that where you're at right now is the funnest thing he could possibly do, and he will run to you every time you call him. Mm-hmm. I think that's what they're missing. They think if they can shame her sufficiently, it's like, no, you just have to be a better deal. And MGTOW will never be the big thing. Deal. Yeah. Because what girl is going to go, MGTOW, that's it.
Yeah.
I'll act right for you. Sure.
Those dudes. Yeah.
Or what's your meme about that? The girl in the wheat field. Oh, I can't wait to find a self-absorbed
asocial schizophrenic, shut in,
in the aggregate, if you were the girl's best option, girls would start acting right. They'd start acting the way you wanted them to, because right now the guys that girls want girls that act like they're acting, and that's why they're acting like they're acting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they can't hold on to those guys, so it's kind of like that's the tricky part. They'll ghost them.
Including this one. And the most, again, and just to sort of put a period, I'll get to the supers here in just a second, but just to put a period on the end of this is the girl diagnoses herself, her problems, everything. Like, remember, I don't want to pull the nail.
So close to self-awareness. So close.
She's almost ready to pull the nail out of her head. She's like, psych, I'm not going to do it. Ha ha. but she knows what the solution to her problems are. She knows what they are. She sees it right there. The very fact, again, that cognitive dissonance, the fact that she would say, and she laughs about it because she tries to laugh it off at the very end there, right? I made this list of the perfect guy and it all looks like me. And then I've got and she realized there's that moment of clarity where the rational, like the ego, the rational mind realizes there's cognitive dissonance. Oh,
can't have that.
Maybe I'm really messed up after all. And then what does she do? She jokes about it at the end, but I'm not rich.
Yeah.
That's that humor. That kind of whenever you hear nervous laughter, it's usually because of cognitive dissonance. Usually. Like, I thought I was one way, but I'm really not. Right. So so there's that nervous laughter joke that comes at the end of it because they have to laugh to keep from crying because they know the bullshit on some level of consciousness, that cognitive dissonance, they have to laugh at it because that's the only way that they can continue with it. Because the hope is one of those things, one of those conflicting ideas is going to pan out. And if it's the one that she wants, great. And then she makes up a story in a pathological world as to this is what I always wanted. And if it's not that one, it's this one over here. It's the alpha Chad instead of the beta bucks guy. Then it worked out for me because that's what I always thought. And so it's this whatever works.
And that's literally the same war bride dynamic applied to the other side of things.
Yes. And there's your war bride dynamic. Go with adapt cognitively to whatever is going to improve your survival, improve your reproduction, improve the security that you need for the most of your life.
God, if we can give that power to men, that'd be amazing.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, that's what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
So let me get to these real quick. What you got here? As a millennial who was raised to be the needy beta bucks catch by my unknowing. Yeah, they probably did know. Then you guys are for recognizing that we didn't choose to be educated in a way that supplied future weak sheep.
Yeah, it's not your fault. Doesn't matter. Too late.
Yeah, and again, it's nature and nurture too. Like, is this what you're about? Is it your genetics? Is it your makeup or whatever? Or is it the fact that you were brought up in a social situation where you were taught to be that sheep or taught to be that lower 80% of guys? There are, like, I get this all the time, and I'm just spitballing here, but I get this from guys who say, well, so and so seems like he's so alpha, but yet he's so beta with chicks, and it's like, yeah. Because those are mutually exclusive. You can be red pill and be very beta.
Admiral Smith even talks about that.
A lot of people are very. Yeah, you can be blue pill and very alpha, and they go, "Well, that sounds contradictory. If you were alpha, you wouldn't be beta, or if you were alpha, you wouldn't be blue pill." No, you just be a very annoying white knight, is what you would be.
Exactly. Manuel Smith talks about that in his assertiveness training book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, where the guy, like, work is a very formal environment. The dynamics of power, the levers, they're formalized. Same as like police interactions. Relationships are very informal. I guess Peterson would call it chaos, but like you have to negotiate the rules as you go through boundary enforcement. So these guys that are like alpha at the boardroom, you give them a full rule set and they can min-max the rules. Yeah. That's why they're awesome at work. But then they go home and it's a game of Calvin ball. Whoever has the most power in the situation invents the rules, right?
Makes up the rules as you play. Mm-hmm.
And they're not able to do that. They're not able to play that kind of subtext power game. And so their skill set just crumbles. And that's how you get these alphas in the boardroom, betas at home thing.
Yeah.
It's just two different skills.
Yeah. I think that needs a lot of clarification, particularly for guys who are just coming into the red pill or just understanding like if we're going to call it the manosphere, whatever it is, like guys coming into this, there's this presumption that alpha is only this way. It's only Superman. It's only this guy.
Dad
it's only
2.0.
It's all cast in a moralistic framework or it's all cast in a dark triad framework. And it's like, no, it's both.
Yeah.
It can be both.
That's why I like the mechanic tool set legal thing. It's just skills. They're all skills. They're all contextually good or bad for some person or another, depending on where you use them. Alpha in the boardroom, great skill set. To min-max rules, great if you want to make money. If you're in a relationship, horrible skill set. Is one better? No. Just one's not useful there. Is a socket wrench more moral than a screwdriver? Well, it depends if you got a nail, a screw, or a pipe.
Yeah. What do you need the tool for? Yeah. And I think that's another thing that a lot of trad cons kind of struggle with as well, because they play by a rule set where if you play by these rules, you are an alpha, right? Yeah. And a lot of them might be, right? They might actually be very alpha, but they're still very blue pill in their dealings with women.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so,
Hillary Clinton won the popular vote.
yeah, they're still very blue pill when they'll self-deprecate, they'll do what they think that they should do because that's what the blue pill taught them to do. So it's in some ways, yeah, you can be an alpha guy and you can even make a case and say, well, it's just the way I am. I'm more muscular, I'm 6 foot tall, blah blah blah. Okay, but you're still blue pill, and you're still living as a guy who is probably not going to be living up to your full potential because you're living by a set of rules that nobody else is playing by. Let me get this guy in here. Some girl on FNF said women are Fresh and Fit we're depressed because they watch podcasts like these.
They aren't watching mine. I see my demo.
Hi, welcome, ladies.
Yeah.
People asked me to do a show that was like a show for women. Like I did an essay for women a while back, and I'm like,
are they trying to make you do that pivot early here? You gonna go into Dr. Oz?
I'm not, I think what they really like, the guys who asked me for that really just want me to sort of like hammer women flat and say, you ain't living right, baby. And then there's there's a demographic of women clearly because they're the ones who sign up for Kevin Samuels are the ones who want to be like told the truth. And hey, I'd be happy to tell you the truth, but at the end of the show, are you gonna change your mind about yourself? Probably not.
No, it's marriage counselors. They often say this behind closed doors. A couple of the married red pill guys actually got their degree for it, and they kind of admit, but never to a client, that all those strategies they give in marriage counseling, they know once emotions temper or flare up, the girl will disregard all of them. And so they I feel bad too for a lot of them because they kind of realize that they're studying a lie. Like you were saying with a lot of psychiatrists right now, that they kind of know this stuff, but their job depends on them pretending like it doesn't exist. Or even Steven Pinker. Mm-hmm. What did Rule Zero Dad call him? The best example of a guy who completely disregards his own research. Yeah,
I know. Yeah. I have gone through the blank slate, the modern denial of human nature, probably like 2 or 3 times, and I'm frustrated by the end of it at every single time. Yeah, and he goes into in the nuts and bolts when it comes to gender and feminism and everything else, and it's just like it's the same. I'm just this close with Godsod too, because Godsod he's brilliant. I think he's what Pinker should have been, but even Godsod still qualifies feminism.
Yeah, that limbic brain always gets the veto, right?
Yes, yeah, always and it's like. You have all this big mound of empirical evidence and you're just walking away from it at the very end of the show.
Meanwhile, it took like a sailor and a heavy metal liquor salesman to get some truth out there. Yeah. How sad is that when this is your messiah, fellas?
Yeah, who do you think you are? What do you want to do with your life?
How dare you?
Oh.
No, Irish Alpha says a dangerous trend in Meghan Markle's feminism is conflating mental illness with personality disorders and encouraging sympathy and funding. Psychopaths are predators who play the victim hero role. They feed off your sympathy. Yeah, they do. Yeah. It's much more effective when women can do it themselves.
Yep.
Because have you heard of this before? I mean, you being the student of psychology. There is, I'm not making this up. This is the actual term, right? It is the women are wonderful effect. Have you ever heard?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. The women are, I think really we need to do a show on the women are wonderful effect because and this is a well-studied effect. And of course, the research had to be done back in the 90s because if you try to do that now, it would never get funded.
Yeah.
You would never have that at a major university. But the women are wonderful effect is that if you're female, people look on you more favorably. No matter what, like you're always either a victim or they need to support you or it's this underlying kind of like subroutine that's been rolling in the back of our minds. I think really, I mean, technically you could go way back, but certainly since the sexual revolution, but they did these studies called the Women Are Wonderful Effect. And it was researched back in like 1993, I think, right. Or 94, somewhere around there. And I was just kind of picking up on it recently. And I'm like, this is fascinating. It's like, I wonder if like anybody wants to look into this, because when I look at like I actually screen capped it. There was a tweet by the American Psychological Association. And this was back, I think back in 2015 or 2017. And the tweet was, what 86 or 87% of psychology graduates and psychology professionals right now, marriage counselors, clinical psychologists, name the subfield of psychology, 86%, 87% are female.
Mm-hmm.
And the only ones that are in any way have more men in it, and they're all dominated by, and they have been for over a decade.
Yeah, the further from people you get, the more you get men in there. That's about the best you could do.
Mm-hmm. So when people when I look at Rolf Dengen's, critiques about like ovulatory shift, or even David Buss to a certain extent, it's like, you have to remember that the environment that those guys are in right now is not the same environment like from back in 1993. So when Steven Pinker was writing The Blank Slate back in the early 2000s, he can get away with that. He tries to publish that today. You're a Nazi. There's something wrong with you. Like you're not on the woke team.
Well, it's more subtle. It's like the ethics board can't approve it, and there'll be some bullshit excuse that has nothing to do with that. But that's essentially what it's getting to. Or
if you want to do research on like a legitimate research on something that is in any way unflattering to the female nature or whatever.
Oh, yeah, nobody will give you a grant.
And even if you could get a grant, it would just go down a memory hole. And so you have to, whenever I see studies, this is the meta-analysis, you've come to find out that like, I know that there was meta-analysis of like Marty Hazelton's work on ovulatory shift that she did way back in the early 2000s. And then you come to find out that there was p hacking in it. Like they're hacking the numbers basically to get the effects that they wanted for it. She talked about that on God Sod's show about a year or two ago. And I was like, yeah, you have to not only consider like dueling research papers, but you also have to consider the environment.
The replication crisis.
Yeah, that they were in.
If you guys don't know the replication crisis, 60% of every study you have out there cannot be replicated. Like nobody can do it. So it's, and I hate to say this, but science is supposed to be like the scientific process is supposed to be a search for truth. We're at coin flips right now, boys. Actually worse than coin flips. A coin flip 50-50.
Yeah,
it's kind of freaky when you think about that.
God Sod and Steven Pinker, is that your king? No, they're not. They're not my kings, but especially not. I've always been critical of Pinker because.
Yeah. Well, didn't we just say like the moral consideration? It's the utility of their statements.
Exactly. And like I know you're like all tight with Jeff Miller, but it's like I don't have a problem with like people always you think I have a problem. I don't. I
get it. You just don't like the cucking, and I don't care.
He uses his own data to justify his lifestyle. That's what.
Yeah, but the way I think about it, Pinker does that too. But I still like Pinker's work.
Yes.
Peterson's on benzos, but I still like his clinical psychology work.
Yeah,
I just look past it.
It's Peterson. I feel very vindicated in my critique, like our original critiques of Peterson back in 2017 when we started.
They weren't wrong.
Yeah, we weren't wrong.
Kind of feel bad for him though, because he kind of like now it's at the point that the next Peterson to come up can talk to Peterson about the process and learn this stuff. But Peterson didn't have anybody, so I kind of feel bad. Yeah. Maybe if you got bigger faster, you could have been there for him. So I want to think this is a personal failure on your part.
In some ways, I'm glad I haven't like apogeed yet. I haven't burned myself out because I've been very slow. I like slow burn. And I've got my fan club that wants to get me on Tim Pool, which I don't think is ever going to happen. They're the same fan club wanted to get me on like Joe Rogan. I'm happy. Hey, thank you for support. I really love.
Want you on there to make fun of Joe's like stepkids or something.
Probably not going to happen because it's not like. And then you look at a guy like Kevin Samuels who just like shoots to the moon after going from being a men's style coach to doing what he's doing right now. Right place, right time. Same thing with I see similarities. Joker's another one, but I see similarities between Kevin Samuels and Jordan Peterson right now because Jordan Peterson was in the right place at the right time and the right niche was right there, right? When he started talking about like, using forced language, right? Using pronouns and stuff. And he pushed back against that even slightly, just happened to be caught on video talking to students saying, no, I'm not going to use your pronouns. And not because I don't want to be courteous to you, but because I don't want to be legally mandated to use language that I don't want to use.
Isn't that funny? He was making like a liberty argument, like a libertarian thing, and then it got dragged into sexual dynamics. So what happened with him was too much, too young, too fast. Now, not the young part, but like too much, too quick, too fast kind of thing. So it's, suddenly he goes from being paid, I don't know what, 100,000 a year being he was making 50 grand a month on his books. He was admitting this on a French interview, 20 grand a month on his Patreon. And his speaking tours were like $5 to $10 a pop or something like that. And he was doing like, 2 or 3 of them a week.
And then he goes to making 80 grand a month on Patreon. And then he's, he becomes who he is. And it's like, yeah. And if you're not ready for that, you probably will. It's like rock stars, man. Or young professional athletes, right? They go from being this inner city kid at 19 years old. And by the time they're 21, they're making, tens of millions of dollars. Yeah, they might have a drug problem.
Do you want to hear something funny too?
Some bad decisions with that.
Do you remember the Kids in the Hall? Do you know who those are?
Huh? No.
You remember their movie Brain Candy?
I think so.
Go back, watch Brain Candy, and then think about Jordan Peterson when you watch that movie, and you're going to laugh your ass off because he's literally the doctor that made the happy drug in that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They actually got him on like a talk show, and they're like, he's trying to talk about the drug, and they're like, I want to see if you can dance. And that's literally what I thought of when they had Peterson on like Dr. Oz or whatever.
Yeah.
Sitting there. Hey, this scientist is cool. Can he dance?
Yeah. What happened to that? He got picked up by the central casting, that casting agency.
Oh,
he thought he was going to be the next Dr. Oz. And it's just like, he flamed out so quick. And like within like a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And he flamed out, and he had his drug problems and everything else. I don't.
Not even his fault for that zeroing out. I mean, his wife from his childhood friends got cancer. That's a huge stress. The daughter with the Russian dude and the Tates and whatever. Like, you get all that plus everybody in the media basically calling him a Nazi. Like, I don't see anybody having the fortitude to put up with all that.
And he doesn't need to do it. I mean, at least as far as I know, but I don't think he needs to do much of anything else. I mean, he's probably got, like, people keep saying about like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan sold out. And then, of course, everyone says, to the tune of $100 million. He doesn't need to do what he's doing right now.
I wouldn't respect him if he didn't.
Yeah. Well, and then that's always the answer. That's always the justification for it. Well, $100 million. It doesn't matter. Wow. Well, he just, killed a nun on the White House lawn. Doesn't matter. $100 million. It doesn't matter what happens.
At least I'm honest. I got Trump in the White House. He even admitted it. I could shoot somebody on Fifth Ave and they'd still vote me in. And they did.
Right. Exactly. All right.
People don't mind an asshole as long as he's their asshole.
Yeah. My team win or lose. All right. What do you got going on, man?
Well, that's the thing. The video, I wanted to release this.
But the video I just ruined for you.
Oh, no, it's fine. Whatever. I just put out a practical female psychology today, though, about the different types of manipulation. And I put out a challenge to everybody. If you're watching this and you can't pick out the times in your life where some of this shit worked on you, then you've clearly been a NEET your whole life. The one we just watched, I'm going to release this one next week, probably like Thursday or something like that.
Explain to people what a NEET is.
Oh, not employed, educated, or under training. Essentially like I don't know. Yeah, it's a NEET. Mm-hmm. Useless. The dredge. Some guy who went his own way, but there was nothing there.
Special. Just because you're special doesn't make you useful.
But yeah, just come check out the videos. And to be fair, and if you don't want something so heavy-handed or like with all the highbrowness to it like we're doing here, I got a second channel where I'm just sitting there playing Tekken and Minecraft, and we kind of casually do this, and you can swap notes with other guys. It's very easygoing.
Right.
I'll put some links in to Rollo here, and you can throw those in the description or whatever.
Yeah, I'll definitely put the link to the full video of this as well. We only watched maybe half of this. So.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'll tell you what. I'll put the link to that now. You guys, you can get it early. Check it out in the comments. I can't see the comments. I'll send it to Rollo. Put that in there.
Okay.
It'll be unlisted, so you can get the sneak peek because you guys are such huge fans of Rollo. It's my way of giving back to you guys.
All right. Let me actually copy this. I'll put this in the chat. Here you go. If you want to watch it, here you go. This is, and I will put this in the description too, just in case you're watching the replay of this. So there you go. Yeah, this was really good. And again, please keep the Chik Tok videos coming. Again, give me something to work with, but like this is the kind of stuff that I can work. So here's an example, like, proof of concept right here. Anytime you see a chick like coming up with stuff, why she's in the position that she's in, or why she thinks guys are this, or why she thinks girls are that, that's the kind of stuff that I can break down and I can dissect, and you can learn something. You get sizzle and steak. So but do keep those coming. I am going to be in Miami as of Friday of next week.
You lucky bastard.
I'm going to be there with and so here's my point. People, maybe since you stuck around, I got 1,248 people here. Jesus. Since you stuck around for this, the real reason I was going to Miami in the first place is because George Gammon invited me to go to his Rebel Capitalism conference that he's got going on out there. And I was unaware of just how popular my work is amongst his sort of little sub-tribe right there. I don't know if you know who Kenneth McElroy is, but he's like an entrepreneur slash money.
Oh, you brought him up, and I've looked him up.
Real estate guy, really knows his shit, and I guess he is real good friends with George Gammon. He's good friends with Robert Kiyosaki as well. And Robert will be there. George will be there. I've talked with George. I did George's podcast for almost 2 hours. And so he invited me to come out. I'm not speaking on stage, but I am going to be wandering around, and I might do some book signing. I think I'm going to have some books shipped out there so I can do some book signing, but, I'll be walking around kind of holding court, I guess. But,
awesome. A whole different group of people that'll have like a wide range of stuff.
I was kind of like, I was actually pleasantly surprised that like guys in that subgenre, whatever you want to call it, that sphere, are really into the red pill kind of stuff. And even Robert Kiyosaki, even McElroy, right? I was like, wow. So that's why I'm invited. That's why I'm going. So I'll be there for the 11th through the 13th, which is this upcoming weekend. So I will be there. And then after that, I will be switching over to another hotel in the Brickell district, which is where I usually go. And then I'll be meeting up with John from Modern Life Dating is flying out from Japan. We're doing Hot Dude Con meetup, whatever. It's free. You can just show up and hang out. And I will be there with him. I'll be there with Sterling Cooper. Paul Benjamin has decided he's going to come down as well. I think Drew Bay from
that'll be nice.
He's going to be there as well. I think I'm going to ask him, but he had mentioned some interest in going, so he might be there as well. But you never know. I know Infamous Rifle Guy is going to show up too. I don't know his real name, but he's told me he's going to be there. And basically it's just a hangout kind of thing for most of it. I'm just going to be there just to sort of talk to people and everything. And then we're probably going to do Fresh and Fit several times. I don't know exactly what the schedule is. I'm still don't know if I'm going to get Milo Yiannopoulos or not, but technically I had him scheduled for like the middle of next week. So that's a possibility as well.
He's future faking it too.
Yeah.
He's going to flake.
That's my very long-winded way of saying that I will probably be sporadic in my posts coming up. I'm going to do some like pre-recorded stuff for next Sunday. So if that's why I'm not doing it live, that's why I'm not doing it live. But I will be on Fresh and Fit. I will be on Sterling Cooper's channel as well, because I'm gonna go on I'm gonna go on and sit on his casting couch. So and then did you say you're going? Oh, cool, nice, thank you.
Look at that.
We'll see you. Good, we will see you there. And I think that's it. And I'm going to be doing some photos. Check my Instagram. I'm sure I'm going to do some videos. I'll be with Fresh, and I'll be with Myron as well. It's just going to be a fun week. So if you can't be there, I wish you could. But if not, follow any of our Instagrams. Watch the videos that we're doing. Like I said, again, I'll be on Sterling Cooper's. And yes, I'll probably see Kiki Cloud at some point during this show. So we'll see how that works out. So thanks for joining me today, Rian Stone. Hey,
thanks for having me. I always have fun with these.
Don't forget to pick up his book, The Fuck Files, FUCC, not the other one. And I'll put that in the description, the link to that and his Amazon link in the description as well. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. I will be doing a Wednesday show, so I'll see you guys then, and peace. Thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed this and you learned something.